Take the red pill. Take the blue pill. 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 You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, 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 take the red. You stay in Wonderland. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show with your host, Scala, every Saturday night on the LNM Network from 9 p.m. to midnight. And now your host, Scala.
All right, hello and welcome everyone. It is the Red Pill Reality Show. We are broadcasting live from Palm Beach County, South Florida. Welcome. Going to be an interesting show tonight. If you haven't heard about what's going on in Virginia, you have had your head in the sand. It's time to get your head out of the sand and wake up, because things are starting to happen, and they are happening rapidly. Tonight I'm going to have several people on. Hopefully we will get a better idea of what is happening with regard to Virginia and the issues that are going on there. I'll be going into a little bit more detail about that in a little while here. A couple of things I wanted to bring up right at the beginning here. If you have some friends that you think need to hear this, get them on the phone, or contact them on the internet, but let them know this is going to be a very important show tonight. What we're going to have is information, even though you may not live in Virginia, the information that comes across is going to have a direct impact on every one of us with regard to the outcome of what's going on in Virginia. I have said several times, I fear that this may be the boiling point for the citizens, for the people of the United States. I think that we have been pushed and pushed and pushed, and I don't doubt that the pushing is on purpose to bring us to the point of where we are today, so that they can say they are defending themselves and pull out all kinds of weapons and weaponry that they have that they will use against us. This is my fear. And all-out hell will break loose. I pray that I am wrong. Anyway, we're going to get into that in a little while. Excuse me. Even with that going on, there are some people still who are in the law enforcement community who support the average person having a weapon to be able to defend themselves, providing that they're trained and they don't have some kind of an anger issue or something like that. They don't have a problem with regular citizens having the ability to defend themselves. Yet we have what's going on in Virginia, a governor who says that's not the case. He's going to make everybody safe by taking it away from everybody. So I want to play this clip for you. This is, now this deputy, he's out of North Carolina. What's happening in Virginia is a litmus test. I've told you guys, it's going on in other places. If you want to save the country, you better step up now. This is the time to make your foothold, draw that line, because we have approached that point. I truly believe we have approached the point that I have feared for so long, and that is people are absolutely positively fed up with what is going on, and they are ready to revolt, literally ready to revolt. And I don't know that that's a good idea. Have a listen to this deputy.
My name's Trip Kester. As you can see, I'm here. I just want to personally...
Could you pull that mic up a little bit?
Is that better? Okay. I just want to personally and publicly go on record supporting this resolution before us this evening. You know, guys, it's simple, like a lot of them have said. The Constitution needs no explanation. It's been enforced for several hundred years now. It's easy to understand. It says what it means and means what it says. And the last time I read the Declaration of Independence, it specifically reminds all of us that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, which means God-given. Among these, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that governments were instituted among men specifically to secure our God-given rights. And it says when government becomes destructive to these ends, meaning when they go above and beyond trying to secure our liberties and trying to take them, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish that government, either by voting or ultimately, God forbid, to use our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves from tyranny. And I'm just asking all of y'all to unanimously join our sister counties of Wilkes, Surrey, Stokes, Lincoln, and Cherokee and get on board with this thing and publicly demonstrate to us that you're willing to uphold and honor the same oath I took when I put my hand on God's word and held my other hand up to him and swore that I'd give my life to defend that Constitution. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but regardless of what y'all do or don't do, I'm not going to enforce an unconstitutional law. I'm going to protect the people of this county regardless of what's done here. So I'm just praying. I've been praying about this thing all week, that God would touch y'all's heart and say, hey, let's get on board. Let's do the right thing. Let's let these people know that we're here to support them, and we're not going to allocate any personnel, finances, resources, or facilities to infringe on their liberties. Thank you.
All right. Now was a sheriff's deputy out of North Carolina, because they're trying to do the same thing. And what he was referring to is becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary county. In other words, they have these sanctuary cities and these sanctuary states and these sanctuary counties for people who don't belong here. They've broken the law in order to be here. They're actually breaking the law by doing that. These people are forming a sanctuary county to protect the law, because the people in charge, unfortunately, are breaking the law. And it is our responsibility to see to it that to hold these people's feet to the fire, basically. All right, I see I've got a call. A little early for a call, but I'm going to take it. Area code 702. Who are you?
It's Melanie.
Oh, hi, Melanie. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Melanie, I was I haven't even had the opportunity to mention you yet, and I'm glad that you called, because I've got some other people who I can't even talk. I'm so emotional about what's going on. I'm having a difficult time, just not screaming. Anyway, Melanie, if you go to the Red Pill Reality Show's Facebook page, you'll see who Melanie is, and I have an audio of her video, and she made a heartfelt call out to the people who are really causing this problem. And unfortunately, it's people who are within the government. It's not the citizens that are causing the problem. It's not the patriots that are causing the problem. It's the people who are supposed to protect them. It's the people who are hired by them to make sure that things are done properly. Could you imagine going to a job and you tell your boss what to do? Because that's exactly what's going on today in this country. And it was never intended to be that way. And there are ways for us to get around that. And, I devoted 9 shows. I have never, ever done that before in 6 years of doing this. 9 shows explaining to people we have a way out of all of this mess. We have a way to restore what was illegally taken from us. And I'll get into that a little later with the other guests. But I wanted Melanie to come on because Of her heartfelt plea. Do you know people personally there in Virginia, Melanie?
I do. I have several friends that actually live in the state of Virginia, and thousands of friends that are headed that way right now. And I've actually spent a lot of time in Virginia myself. It's one of my favorite states, to be honest with you. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of culture. If you're the kind of person like I am, I'm an antique shopper. So I like to
That's
spend
a gold
lot of
mine.
time doing my antiquing in Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, and areas that's very historically significant to someone who's proud to be an American.
That would be a gold mine for an antique seeker.
Yeah. Oh, I believe me, I love it. But here's the point, though. It's not just about Virginia, and that's why I felt the need to speak up. And one of the things that you hit on that I want to reiterate real quick, because I understand I have a viral video right now and it's exciting and everybody's watching, but this is what I want all your listeners to understand. I'm just a regular, everyday American citizen. I'm a single mom trying to raise my kids. I go to work every day.
God bless you.
I pay my taxes. I clean my house. I have dirty dishes. I yell at my kids. I'm not any different than anybody else. But I'm so terrified. I'm so terrified that my children and my grandchildren are going to be robbed of their birthright, that they're not going to live in the land of liberty, that they're not going to be able to pursue the American dream. So whether I live in Virginia or Utah or Missouri or New York or California or Timbuktu, this is unacceptable.
Amen.
They are literally robbing us of our inheritance. I am an American citizen. This is my birthright. And they are taking it and stripping it from me. And you were right. You were right about what you said about Virginia being the battleground. Because you know what? I've been talking to people for the last week and a half. And you know what? You know what's going on? Missouri, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky,
we're right behind them.
North Carolina, Delaware, Vermont. They're all following right behind.
Yep, I'm very concerned because I'm in Florida.
Don't think for 1 minute, if you don't live in Virginia, this is none of your business. I'm telling you right now, it is most definitely your business.
Absolutely.
And it's my business.
I said earlier in the broadcast when I first came on, it doesn't matter whether you think this, because you don't live there, it has no concern to you. You'd be making a very, very sad mistake. This is a litmus test. We are being tested, and we are being put to the fire right now. And my fear is people like me who get emotional over this stuff, it's easy to that's why I try to stay away from rallies and stuff like that. I see this nonsense, I just want to scream. I just, don't think I'm crazy. But my concern is that emotions are going to run high. From what I understand, the governor has literally threatened law-abiding citizens. Literally, he has told them that we're going to pass. If these laws pass, we are going to uphold these laws. And basically, they are nothing more than a total disarmament. The only thing that I can think of that's going to be legal will be a revolver. Not even shotguns are going to be legal. So there's nothing left to defend yourself with.
If the shotgun is legal, guess what's not? The bullets you put in it.
Yeah.
So that's how he's broken this down. So it'll look in one bill like, well, we left you this gun and this gun and this gun, but then if you hop on over here to this other bill, the bullets that go in that gun aren't legal.
Or if you have, they worded it.
Have so many.
They worded it in such a way: if you have a weapon that can hold a magazine, doesn't matter how much the magazine is. If the weapon can hold a magazine, that weapon is no longer legal. Can you imagine that? Right. How many people out there have a weapon that holds? I'm guessing, I may be sticking both feet in my mouth, but I'm thinking probably 80-90% of the weapons that are out there encompass some kind of a magazine. So if I'm right, it's almost a complete disarmament. Like I said earlier, the only thing I can think of is a revolver. Because a revolver is not a I guess it's considered a semi-automatic, but it doesn't have a magazine, and that's really what they're after, to be able to shoot multiple rounds, to be able to defend yourself. And it's not about hunting. It's about defending yourself against exactly what is happening in Virginia right now. And Melanie alluded to it. It's happening in Florida as well. Those of you who live here in Florida with me, they're doing the same crap to us here in Florida. These red flag laws are absolutely unconstitutional. There's no due process in any of this. Somebody gets a wild hair up their kazoo and says, oh, you know what? Mr. Smith over there, he's got a gun. And I heard him say he's going to hurt somebody. And Mr. Smith may have never said anything of the sort, but guess what? Mr. Smith more than likely will end up either losing his gun or his life, because if Mr. Smith is the kind of person like I am, they're not going to come over here and just ask me for my weapons and I'm going to go, sure, here you go. It's not going to happen. And I'm not the only one. This is the thing. There are millions like me. The estimated total weaponry that has been purchased up to date is over 300 million weapons that have been sold. So my message is also going out to you who are out there who are responsible for causing all of this. Be careful.
Here's my thing, and this is I want to give you an analogy, if you'll indulge me. Okay, this is my take on the red flag laws. You know, we've all seen the tit for tat and the petty squabbles that go on between people, right? Whether it be a divorced couple, an ex-husband and ex-wife,
Yep.
whether it be that neighbor that maybe got a little catty with you the other day, and people, what they do is the new trend has been, and I've seen this a million times, I'm calling CPS on you. I don't like what you did the other day. You stole my parking spot. Or we got into a squabble about this and this and this and this. So I'm going to go ahead and call CPS on you. Well, now the new thing is I'm going to call red flag on you.
Yeah.
I don't like the way you talk to me. I'm going to tell them you're crazy and have all your guns taken away.
And it's not just your guns, by the way, Melanie. It's anything they perceive. Anything they perceive can be a weapon. I mean, you take all your steak knives while they're at it. So it's a complete disarmament. It's unacceptable. It is not the way that this country was originally laid out to be. This is why I devoted 9 shows to explaining to people we're not living under the system that the forefathers who put all of this together put together. It has been hijacked, and you'd have to be sleeping under a rock not to see that. These people do not have the authority to do what they're doing. They have the power. Understand me, please. They do not have the authority, but they have the power. How did they get the power? We loaned it to them. We have allowed them, we the people have allowed them, have trusted them to ensure that our rights remain in place and that they will defend those rights. And what has happened is they have betrayed us. Therefore, they are in default of their contracts. At the very minimum default of their contracts, at the very maximum, they have committed treason.
Agreed. I'll be honest with you. You know what it feels like to me? Domestic violence.
It is. It is domestic violence.
This is my relationship with my government right now.
It is a bully.
Me, they kick me, they throw me around. They say, oh, man, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Here's some flowers. We're going to give you this little piddly-ass bill over here, and that'll make it up.
None of that is acceptable.
We're gonna give you a tax break, and that'll make it up to you.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, I'm gonna give you another chance, and then they knock me down again.
Yep.
I feel like an abused housewife. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand where you're coming from.
Going back to it
Yeah.
over and over again because I love this country.
Well,
I am an American woman. I love this country. God help me, I do. I wake up every day and I thank God. I say, you know what? I don't live in the Middle East where I could be stoned to death. I don't live in a country where I need to be escorted by a man everywhere I go. I'm allowed to own property. I'm allowed to have a job. I'm allowed to vote. I am a woman, and I was fortunate enough to be born in the United States of America. And I'm so proud of that, and I love this country so much. But for my government to use that against me, to try and strip me of my rights, it's the most heartbreaking thing that I've ever experienced, and I didn't think I'd ever experience in my lifetime. I thought that was for sci-fi movies. I was so naive, I didn't think that was real.
Yep. I feel the same way. I get very emotional because I'm a veteran of the Vietnam War. I have friends that went off to war and physically never returned. I have friends that went off to war and returned, but they weren't the people that left when they came back. They were completely different, only to find out that our government had lied to me, had used that patriot spirit that I had as we were growing up, used that against me to go out and literally kill other people, believing that we were working for the betterment of our country, only to find out that the entire thing was based upon a lie, and it was for greed and power. This was a rude awakening for me, and it caused me to question my reality. How could a government that perceivably, that gives out this perception of being so good and wanting to take care of everybody, how could a government like that do something so wrong? And then the more I dug, the more I found. It happens all the time. And the reason that it happens, I believe, is that we are busy trying to make a living, trying to provide for our children, to put shelter over their head, to put clothes on their back and food on the table. In all of that, we are so involved in trying to hold our families together because there is an outright attack on the families today. They're able to pull all this nonsense behind our backs because we have trusted them to do the right thing. And now it's out in the open. It's no longer, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. They don't care about doing our right, what's going to benefit us. They don't care about doing the right thing according to the laws that are already in place. The highest law of the land is supposed to be the Constitution. Their job, first and foremost, is the oath that they took to defend that Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And when you come up with something that goes directly against the Constitution, you are in default of your contract. You have betrayed the very people who have trusted you to be where you are. In the older days, we wouldn't be so kind. I have news for you. You're very fortunate, and I'm speaking to those of you who have caused this problem. You know who you are. You wouldn't be so fortunate. You would probably, I'm not going to say it because then it hold me liable, but you wouldn't be so fortunate. Let me just put it to you that way. At the very least, you'd be tarred and feathered, at the very least. But I think it would be a lot more than that. At the rate that you people are going, and I'm speaking to the management right now, at the rate that you people are going, and understanding that we have 95 counties in Virginia, 90 of them have told you we're not happy with what you're doing, and you continue to threaten the people, it's not going to go well for you. It's just not going to go well for anybody. There's no reason for this. There's no justifiable reason for what is going on today. The people have no idea if all war breaks out. Oh my God. Forgive me. People don't have any idea what it's like to be in war, generally speaking. You don't know how people will turn into animals. Just take a look at what happens after a storm when we don't have electricity for 2 or 3 days. Imagine what's going to happen if a war breaks out and everything shuts down and it's everybody for themselves and you don't know who your friends are. Think about that, because that's what's coming. If we can't keep our act together, if we can't respond to this in the proper way. Melanie responded in the proper way. I want to play the audio of what she said. It's so powerful. I'm going to play this audio for you, and you can get an idea what someone else thinks. I'm not the only Looney Tune out there who's telling you we must stand for what is right, and the time has already passed. It's no longer sit on the couch and say, well, let's see what happens. That can't happen anymore. We have things that we must do, and I've told you all before, and I hate to repeat it, but it's the truth. This is our fault. We have allowed these people to take this from us. We are the power. How many of you out there have forgotten? We are the power. They derive their authority and their power from us. Once we have enough of us that say, no, There's not going to happen anymore. And we have, like I played for you earlier, we have law enforcement now who are waking up to this nightmare and saying, no, we're not going to defend you who are breaking the law against the patriots and turning law-abiding citizens into felons overnight just because a piece of paper went through progress. Forget that nonsense. This is what we're trying to avoid. Let me play this audio. You want to say anything, Melanie, before I play this?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate something you said, and I want to make sure I'm very clear on that, because I do love this country, and I do consider myself an American patriot. My objective from the very beginning and all the way to the end will always be to prevent any harm or injury to any American.
Amen.
Okay? I don't see anything patriotic about American citizens harming other American citizens. And so it was my attempt from the beginning, and even now, to do this the legal way, to do this the appropriate way, in line with the Constitution that I'm trying to defend. And Northam has made that impossible for me.
Absolutely.
Impossible.
This is what I said about earlier.
Every law from the beginning. Even this state of emergency he declared. I don't know if you're familiar with Virginia Code HB 20. Okay, but in 2012, Mike Watson put forth a bill, and it passed and went through the Virginia legislation that says that you're not allowed to declare a state of emergency in order to prevent people from assembling, in order to prevent people from protesting their government. That's a Virginia state law. And Northam threw it out the window along with our Constitution in order to enact these illegal events. And what's worse is he's acting like us wanting to keep our birthright makes us bad guys.
Exactly. And it's unacceptable.
So,
totally unacceptable. Here we go.
And
I want to talk to you a little.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all. That was my intention.
Okay.
I just wanted to make that clear.
All right.
Bit about Virginia and some of the things that transpired today. They went ahead and did a vote on some of these gun laws in Virginia today that weren't scheduled yet. And the reality of the situation is what that does is prevents lobby day from being effective, right? Everybody's going to go to Virginia on the 20th to lobby their delegate and to express their feelings and redress their grievances. And what happened today was that Virginia decided to take that right away from their citizens. This may come as a shock to some people. It did not come as a shock to me. It's actually something we've been preparing for over the last several days. And when I say we, I mean that we have put together a congress of people, of we the people, and a panel, if you will. And we have been having some conference calls and discussing some of the events taking place in Virginia because we're very concerned. We're very concerned about losing our freedoms. We're very concerned that this trend might spread to other states. We're concerned for the people of Virginia, who are not only being stripped of their gun rights at this point, but also of their right to peaceably assemble and their right to a redress of grievances. This has far exceeded an overreach. We're well past the point of abuse of power. And so the panel of people that I've been working with, we have all come together and we have decided collectively that we are going to be issuing a final notice to cease and desist and demand for immediate remedy to the delegates of the state of Virginia for their breach of contract and oppression against the Virginian citizens. I'm going to take a few minutes to go over our demand for immediate remedy with you. I'm going to ask you to share my video to your groups and your pages. I'm also going to let you know that I'm putting a PDF file link in this live feed so that you guys can save it and print it and sign it and use it at will. It's also going to be available for you to use in your own states because, as we're already seeing, Virginia has set a precedent. And so other states are following suit, thinking that it's okay to act in tyranny against we the people. And I'm here to tell you that that's not going to be accepted, that we're not going to allow that. This is very emotional, very difficult, and very passionate subject. And so I want to tell you before I get into the document that with my whole heart, I consider myself a patriot, an American patriot. I love my country, and I love my fellow Americans. And this is my last-ditch effort to prevent anybody from getting harmed, to prevent anybody from going down a path that we can't come back from. Governor Northam, I believe, decided in his head that if he snuck this emergency session in and voted on these bills behind the backs of the people of Virginia, that somehow he would prevent the 100,000 people that are going to Virginia on the 20th from showing up. Instead, what he has done is changed their motivation for going. See, everybody's still going. We're still going to show up on your doorstep and demand that you adhere to the Constitution of these United States. The problem is, there's nothing to lobby now. There's nothing to protest now. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see anybody's life ruined. I don't want to see anything like that at all, because I love my fellow Americans. So with my whole heart, Ralph Northam and your posse of tyrannical, unconstitutional betrayers of the people, this is, in fact, your final notice to cease and desist and demand for immediate remedy. We, the people et al., on behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth of the state of Virginia, do hereby demand that you immediately stop your current course of action. You have been found by the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the citizens of the United States of America to be guilty of violating the Constitution of the United States of America, which binds you to the same, and for which conditional entry into the Union is granted contingent on adherence. During the 2019-2020 legislative session, you have proposed and enacted unconstitutional and therefore illegal as implied legislative measures with the direct purpose and intent of stripping Virginia citizens from their sovereign rights as guaranteed and protected by the Constitution of the United States, which is an authority greater than your own and to which you are required to adhere to protect and defend as conditional entry into the Union. Having subjected your case to a panel of we the people of the United States of America, it has been unanimously determined that the named defendants representing the Commonwealth of Virginia are guilty either by direct action or failure to act in the prevention of at least and not limited to the following 7 breaches. 1. Amendment 1 to the Constitution of the United States, shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. 2. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. 3. Amendment 4 to the Constitution of the United States. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things being seized. That refers to red flag laws. 4. Amendment 5 to the Constitution of the United States. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service of time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any crime case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Also refers to red flag laws. Amendment 9 to the Constitution of the United States. The enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people as individuals. Amendment 10 to the Constitution of the United States. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. In other words, your authority ends where the Constitution begins. Number 7, Number 7, Amendment 14 to the Constitution of the United States, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of laws. Due to the nature of the offenses against the citizens of Virginia, properly identified as American citizens by law and constitute, this notice is to inform you that if you do not immediately stop and repeal all acts of tyranny, oppression, and violation of constitutional rights against the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, that legal action may be taken against your individual persons, which include but are not limited to termination of position held, civil litigation, criminal prosecution. This is your final notice and demand for remedy. You must immediately rescind any legislative bills which seek to oppress the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia and tender your resignation from office. Failure to comply swiftly and immediately prior to the January 20th legislative session will result in legal action which will commence effective January 21st, 2020. This notice, as we speak, is being emailed to every single person who represents the governing body of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Ralph Northam, as governor, has been identified as the key representative for those individual persons. This is our last-ditch effort. This is your final warning. Please uphold the oath of office you swore when we, the people, decided to allow you the privilege to represent us in government. Your failure to do so has resulted in this. This is not a skit. This is not a meme. This is absolute real life. We are prepared to defend our rights. This is not a minor infraction. What you're threatening against us right now is the inheritance guaranteed to our children and our grandchildren. We will not tolerate it. Ralph Northam of the Commonwealth of Virginia, you are hereby put on notice by We the People et al. You must immediately stop this course of action. God save the Republic. Good night.
Excellent. Excellently put there, Melanie. I don't think I can, that was just very well done. Bear with me just a minute. Are you with me, Melanie?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
still here.
Let me pick up another call. I got area code 951. 951, your first name? Area code 951. Hello?
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Can you hear me okay?
Okay, I can hear you now. Your first name?
Oh, great. This is Crissy. I'm actually
Hey.
in Virginia.
Crissy. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Christy.
It's coming up
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
coming up as California, 951 Riverside, California.
Yeah, I'm a born and raised Californian living in Virginia.
Oh, we need more of them over there.
Yeah, Virginia was getting California was getting pretty crazy.
Oh, my goodness. All right. And I've got David. David, welcome.
Hey, Riscala. I'm glad to be here, and it's been an entertaining show so far.
So, well, I hope it's a little more than entertaining. I want to.
I know. I was just trying to keep it light. That's all.
This is to me. This is the worst of scenarios that can be happening right now, and it seemingly, at least on the surface, it seems as though people. It's that thing. What was that word that you used to use, Dave? It's relevance. Is that what it is?
That's relevant.
Relevance.
This is relevant.
So it's going to become real relevant if they start knocking on people's door. It's going to become real relevant at that point. So anyway, Crissy, welcome, and hoping you can tell me a little bit, since you are in Virginia. Give me a little bit about what's going on over there. It's up to you now.
I am. Well, I mean, you already know there's a lot going on right now. Everybody's kind of in an uproar. I personally come from a different take on the whole situation. I was going to attend the rally, but after much prayer and consideration for the group I was going with, we decided to postpone going and actually doing other things. But I've also been working on state reestablishment here as well. So I've got a pretty full plate on a normal day. But I'm sure you've seen all of the things happening. I haven't been able to confirm any bills being passed at this time. You can always check on the VCDL webpage, and they usually have it updated there. But so far, nothing's been passed yet, into law. It still has to go through many steps. Of course, I'm sure we're all holding our breath, hoping it doesn't get that far. Unfortunately,
hang on a second, Crissy. Hang on just a second.
Sure.
Melanie, did I misunderstand you? Did you say you thought they had passed? Something had passed.
4 out of 10 of the gun bills were sent through on an emergency session. And this was Monday a week ago.
Okay.
And,
Yes, they've been passed through.
Oh,
3 different bills have gone through the Senate. They still have to go through
right.
the House.
Right.
They're not law
But
yet.
my point in stating that was that they weren't even slated for that day.
Right. No, they're sneaking it in. That's considered like fast tracking. So they are fast tracking bills. And from my experience in the medical freedom movement, this is very common, especially in dealing with California. You wouldn't believe the corruption I've watched with my own eyes.
No. No telling.
It's horrifying. And I mean, you can see, committee members sitting there whispering to each other when they had voted one way, and then somebody whispers in somebody else's ear that, hey, you voted wrong, or whatever the case may be, and then all of a sudden their votes change.
Wow.
So
I saw that video also.
Wow.
yeah, there's so many of them. And I don't have much hope in this process, being that I expect them to turn down these bills or remove them. I personally see them going through and this ending up in court, just because of the nature of how our government system has become. We don't, they just don't care at all what the people have to say. So, like I said, I've taken a different route. I have a group of people here in Virginia that have decided to reestablish the sovereign state as it was originally intended. It's lawful in its lawful form, and we are creating a legal argument for court for when we refuse to follow whatever it is that they decide through. Because I really believe that begging our legislators is no longer the option. They just don't listen. So, so is there any other questions you have about what's going on here? I feel like it's all over the internet already, and there's so much, but
now, I think somebody said 100,000. Is that what is it expected to be there? Is 100?
That's what it is. That's what is expected at this time. And there's people literally coming from all over the United States.
Well, my fear is that those people will be used as pawns to create violence, because
absolutely.
I've read a couple of articles where the Antifa specialists are going to be there.
Exactly.
And
and
go ahead.
there's rumor that they're coming in on our side, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing either.
That's about what I was about to say. They want to support the Second Amendment. But what happens, if they're involved with law-abiding citizens and all of a sudden they become lawbreakers, then you're guilty by association kind of thing. So that's one of my fears. And David kind of brought up an interesting point, and that is we have to be careful how we tread, how we respond, how we hopefully it's a respond and not a reaction, because I think that's what they want is a reaction.
100%.
Yeah, David.
Well, we do have. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask David to say the thing that you said, the little thing, the post that you put up about Virginia.
Oh. Yeah, I'll have to go grab it real quick off Facebook because, here's the point, and it really comes down to this, is we've got to be very careful, and I'm pulling it up while I'm talking. We've got to be looking at this from a very circumspective point of view, because we don't have subsidiarity. We don't have the mechanism, the authority, or the access to information we need in order to be able to deal with problems at their source. And because of that, we're really not able to come in with a full deck. We're not able to come in with all of the things that we're capable to make decisions with if we had those components in our hand. What I said was, those of us watching from afar really hope the good people of Virginia think long and hard about going to Richmond next week. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We're concerned you might be unnecessarily putting yourselves in harm's way. The Second Amendment lightning rod is becoming a catalyst for both good and evil. Choose wisely how to respond, Americans. Be careful. We will win in the end.
Amen.
And I say that. Go ahead. Somebody has a comment?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to interject something real quick. And I think this might be a great opportunity to say this. I have a saying that I put out quite frequently, and I mean this. You know, I'm a regular, everyday American, just like everybody else, and I'm a God-fearing Christian woman. And I have many things that can bring fear to my heart on a regular basis. But I will tell you this right now, right here and now. I fear no evil, only the silence of righteous men.
Amen.
That's a good point.
So we can sit here and we can say, there's a conspiracy about this, and there's a rumor about this on the internet, and this might be happening over here, and you know, this is really Bloomberg, or this is really Soros,
Yep.
or this is really this and this and this, and it's really a trap, so don't show up. And when nobody shows up, my grandchildren are slaves. That is unacceptable.
Well,
I'm scared. I know you're scared. I'm scared.
I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. I agree with you that people need to be willing to stand up and take a stand when they see that their rights and their lives are being threatened in understanding the history of what happens when a people is disarmed. We know where it leads. It leads to democide, death by government. We know that that's where it goes. And it's always by incremental steps in which it appears as if the government is looking out for our best interests, when those, in our case, that we have appointed by election into positions to make decisions, don't take into account the people that put them in those positions, that we have a right to instruct them in how they ought to behave. And I don't in any way believe what you just said is anything less than absolutely plausible and respected and legitimate. My concern is that there's a perfect storm that is being created.
That's my fear.
In Virginia right now, in
That's
Richmond.
my fear.
And it's being created. We don't know who's behind some of the decisions that Northam is making. We don't ultimately know whether he's acting on his own
I don't think so.
recognizance or he's acting based upon advisement from others that helped him get into office. We don't know. We don't know what their plans are. I can tell you this: I've got very good friends across the country who are very much involved in law enforcement and other aspects of things. For example, they have these machines that are going to be literally in the streets. They're like a bobcat that has the ability to shoot tear gas off and rally people, kind of move people into certain directions that are going to be manned by law enforcement officials, or perhaps, I don't know if it'll be National Guard or something else, but public officials whose job it is to provide the police power when people are in this environment. And the only point that I think we need to think about is this is not a single event. This is not a single opportunity for the people. This is what I call the incipient point. This is where the fuse has been lit. I like to term it the equivalent of the Boston Massacre without the bloodshed. If we go back and look at history, I'm a historical scholar. I've spent many years of my life studying the founding generation and how we became the country that we have. and how we beat the British and how we were able to come together in a organized and concerted way throughout all the colonies to stop one of the most fearsome political forces of that time. And, they were the empire of the world at the time. And we only had, in the course of 7 years, 10,000 men die, and most of them died as a result of disease, not being shot. And so somehow we were able to figure out, even though we were only a 3 million people country at the time, made up of 13 colonies that became states, 13 countries, if you will. But at that time, they didn't have the communications or the transportation we have. So I kind of look at it as being a equivalent playing field to what we have today, even though we're a much greater number of people, because we have much more sophisticated ways to learn what we need to know from our society. So my point is, let's make sure that if we're going to Richmond, that we're going for a reason that is not going to put ourselves in harm's way, and is going to provide a reasonable outcome that we deliberately know is going to be achieved as a result of the action, because it's not a static situation.
Not at all.
They are making changes in the rules right out of the chute. For example, they're now apparently putting in place a specific traffic pattern in the Capitol next week, where people are going to only be able to come in one way and exit another way. And so there's things that are being done that really should raise a caution in people's minds that this just might not be an environment that's conducive to safety and security for the people attending. And all I'm saying is that that's something that people need to realize when they're going there. There's going to be a whole bunch of people showing up with weapons, with guns, arms. Now they're being told you can't bring them to the Capitol, and that's all I'm saying is let's just make sure that we go in with both eyes wide open, understanding the volatility of what's going to be happening there. That's really the point of what I put up on the internet the other day.
Okay, so can I interject real quick?
Sure.
I think this would be a great time for me to ask you, if you don't mind, if I bring a friend of mine on.
Sure.
Okay, because
just
no
cursing, okay? Just no cursing.
I'm sorry. I have a potty mouth. It's not my fault. Okay. So
this is radio. So
yeah.
I apologize.
No worries.
So here's my perspective. Okay. I've tried the legal way. I've tried the constitutional way, right? And at every turn, Northam has come at me with some illegal maneuver that for some reason has worked. It was upheld by the court, and then it was upheld by the Virginia Supreme Court.
Because they're all
right?
corrupt. That's why.
So all I'm hearing in the news right now is that the militia, quote unquote, is a bunch of neo-Nazis and bad guys that want to go to Virginia and do bad things. That's what I'm hearing in the news right now. But the irony of that is that Northam has declared a state of emergency and called in his National Guard or whatever it is. The National Guard was actually started by militia, right?
May I interrupt for a moment and help clarify something that you don't know, Melanie? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me just share something. Okay. Riscala mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I don't know if you heard him when he mentioned this, about the fact that we've had 9 radio shows that Milo Townsend and John Ainsworth and I have, and Paul Thompson and others have been a part of. And you don't know this because you're a new friend, okay? But we have spent over 24 hours of time over these shows explaining a whole lot of very well-founded and grounded information with respect to the militia, with respect to the way our government is acting and operating today, and a full set of political and legal remedy to it that most people in this country don't even know. And with all due respect, and I mean respect in the highest possible way, we still do have ways that we can achieve remedy. Crissy alluded to it very briefly in her comments, and but we have to remember a couple of things. Number one, there was a man back in the early 1900s, and Riscal has heard me say these things many times, so bear with me. His name was Jorge Santayana. And Jorge Santayana said that they who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And we know that he meant to put the word bad in there, that they who cannot remember the bad past are condemned to repeat it. Because in the context of his book, Age of Reason, he was talking about the bad things that were going on in society at the time. Okay? At the same time, there's a corollary to that. The corollary is that they who can remember the good past are blessed to repeat it. But they who cannot remember the good past get what's coming to them. And there's a whole bunch of things that we have never really understood from our good past that could put us on the right trajectory, including putting the militia back properly. Okay? And understanding, number one, most people don't understand what the militia is, that it's public, never private, that it is based upon statutory law at the state level, implemented by the legislature, where all the people, as Virginia has very clearly pointed out through their Second Amendment ordinances, that a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state, such as the Commonwealth of Virginia, because that's right in their Declaration of Rights, Section 13. And the other point being is that we've got to stop being insane. We've got to stop doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We must sit back, learn what we need to know, be humble enough to realize we might not know what we need to know, and then be willing to get our heads screwed on straight and then do something different to get the different result. We are formulating a plan to do that, and we are working on that very diligently. People all over this country are involved. Yesterday, I received a phone call from a man in Arizona who was connected to a legislator, and that legislator called him and asked this question. Who do you know, I won't mention his name, who do you know who understands how the original founding generation was able to make the militia effective and can give us the information we need to go down this road in the legislature of Arizona? And fortunately, this man knew me. I'm a mentor to this man. He knew me. He knows my research. He knows what we've put together. And he called me and said, David, this is what he said. He said, David, you're a prophet. And I said, no, I'm not a prophet. I'm a servant. He said, but you saw this coming, that this kind of stuff was going to happen, and it's true. But it's not because I'm anything special. It's because I went back and looked at history. And if we remember the history and we are able to understand it, from it, we can figure out the answer. I'm a scientist by my background and experience, and I'm taking the scientific process and I'm looking at this through that lens, because and John Ainsworth's done this with the work that he's doing in America's Remedy, and we believe that we are coming together to forge what could be a very valid, legitimate, and doable plan where we don't have to just throw our arms up and say it isn't working. The reason it's not working is because they are the vested authority and we are not. They have the power because it's been usurped for so long and done through surreptitious subversion where we didn't even realize what was being done to us. For example, you mentioned the 14th Amendment. There's things in the 14th Amendment that were actually done illegally and being put in place. That, not that the 14th Amendment's illegal in the sense of that it is an amendment in the Constitution, but the way by which that amendment itself was made part of the supreme law of the land was done through the Reconstruction Acts in a way that was completely illegal and coercive. But the point being, we have to understand these things. If we're going to fix our problem, we have to step back a step and understand what's been done, why it's been done, how it's been done, by whom it's been done, and what is the proper way to deal with the real issues. So that's
why?
Why? Because
Why? No,
we must be eminently and unquestionably legal if at all possible.
Let me complete my question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think for 1 minute that because you're a scholar or an intellect that the Bill of Rights somehow applies to you more than it does to me?
No.
Then none of that meant anything.
Well,
we
I
are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States that no matter who we are, no matter what race, creed, religion, sexual orientation, or otherwise, we are guaranteed a Bill of Rights. I don't have to be a scholar to know what my inheritance is.
Well, that may be true, but Melanie, there's something. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Ace Baker. I'm a friend of Melanie's. Let me tell you a little bit about experience and history that I've seen myself. I've started a page called American Warrior Revolution. We have 540,000 people on social media, on Facebook alone. I've been all over the country, from one side of the country to the other, to include Bundy Ranch in 2014.
Thank you.
I've been all over. And through my experience, what works, I mean, we talk about scientific theory and what worked in Bundy Ranch is more guns than they had.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I went to the 9/11 Memorial. Most people don't know these stories. They're there to look them up. I went to the 9/11 Memorial in 2017, June of 2017. We were told by the Port Authority, you can't have the American flag, of all places, ground zero in New York City. The 9/11 Memorial, the American flag was outlawed. They said it was a distraction to those that were there to mourn. That was in June of 2017. In July of 2017, we went back to the 9/11 Memorial with thousands of people from all over the country carrying American flags. We overwhelmed them with numbers. You understand? We got a letter from the Port Authority a few weeks after that saying, hey, look, we're sorry for the inconvenience. We're going to reinstate the American flag be allowed at the 9/11 Memorial. There's a federal judge in Las Vegas, Nevada. Her name is Gloria Navarro. Gloria Navarro was the judge of the Bundy trial, and Gloria Navarro made a ruling saying that nobody can use the front steps of the federal courthouse. You understand? We went to Las Vegas, Nevada. We took thousands of people with us. We stood on the front steps of the federal courthouse, and we would not leave. We did that with numbers. Gloria Navarro got a letter from the Department of Justice saying, hey, you're just an executive of the building. You don't dictate what doors the people use. My point here is a government that fears the people, you have liberty. You understand? What has happened through our history is we have scholars who have these wonderful ideas, and I'm not saying that the ideas are bad. What I'm saying is the government doesn't fear your idea. The government fears men like me who are willing to actually go into the city of Richmond, even with all of the fear-mongering done and hey, look, they're changing traffic, the traffic lights. So you come in, I don't care. I was United States Army SEER School instructor. I was a police officer for 12 years. I was appointment on the entry team for SWAT. Government doesn't scare me. It's my job to scare government. That's my right. You understand?
I like this guy.
So the point, totally understand. The point. But let me just suggest one thing.
Hang on, David. Sure. Hang on, David. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Let's make sure we don't do a right thing in a wrong way. That's all I'm suggesting. At no point in time has anybody on the side that I stand on advocated or incited violence. The only people that have even mentioned or made any type of threat inside of all of this is Governor Northam and the one legislator who threatened the citizens of Virginia that did not comply to the laws that were going to be passed. They were going to send the military arm of the government, the National Guard, door to door to take their weapons by force. Yeah. You have not heard the militia. You have not heard 3% organizations. You've not heard Minutemen. You've not heard Oath Keepers make any threats to the government of Virginia, other than we are coming. You understand? So the weaponizing of our legislators. You've said it. Yeah, I heard somebody made a great comment earlier. When you have 90 counties, 90 plus counties that have been clear and they're moving city council meetings
to high school gymnasiums to account for the amount of people that are turning out to these city hall meetings where they're instilling and making referendums for 2A sanctuary cities. It's incredible, and it should be used to inspire people, more people to show up. We can't sit back and fearmonger and tell people to not go, because if we didn't go to Bunkerville, if we didn't go to the Bundy Ranch, then people would have lost their lives. The more people that go to Richmond, Richmond, Virginia on Monday, the safer everyone is, to include the government. That's all I've got to say. I've been to these places.
Don't take off on me.
I appreciate
Hang
everything
on.
that you guys are saying. Go ahead.
Hey, don't take off. What's your first name?
My name is Ace, A-C-E, like the playing card,
Okay.
Baker.
Okay, here's my...
He's the founder of American Warrior Revolution.
American Warrior Revolution, that's the website as well?
It's a website, Facebook page. I think, I don't know, Facebook page has 540-something thousand people on it, over 500,000.
Ace, here's...
I started American Warrior Revolution in 2012 when I worked for the Department of Defense as a contractor for the United States Army SEER School. I was an evasion, escape, and fire instructor teaching military. And before that, I was a police officer for 12 years. I was uneducated to the Constitution, going through law.
That's done on purpose. Here's my concern, Ace. This is what I want to express to you.
Sure.
Do you believe that, I'm going to kind of go off in a weird tangent here, but just bear with me for a moment. If I said to you, there are people on this planet that their whole purpose here is somehow they feel they're better than everybody else, and they have conspired. There is an actual conspiracy that is going to, their goal is at some point in time, they want to be able to take over the entire planet. And they're doing it bits and pieces, countries at a time. That the actions that we're witnessing today are those bits and pieces of those actions. These people, they do what they do because of, some of them on the surface, it's because of greed. But when it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, they do what they do for the power. Their money to them is no longer a challenge per se, because money comes in regularly for them, like you turn on the water tap. That's how. So it's no longer a challenge. The challenge is to control people, and in this way of controlling people, they've had plenty of experience at controlling people and getting people to think a certain way. And I'm going to use you as a particular example because I was just like you as well. Unfortunately for me, I woke up, it took me till 2002 to wake up. But since that time, I have been wholeheartedly trying to get people to understand. There are people who know how to, they have an entire system in place to program or to condition people, if you will, to think along a certain line. And my concern is when we have this
it's called indoctrination.
Okay, that's great. When we have a large group of people like this that come together, and Crissy kind of alluded to this, where these Antifa people are going to come in and they want to support the Second Amendment. My concern is these are I can't think of the right word. They're I can't think of the right word. They're inserts. Huh?
Radicals?
Well, no, they're inserts. They're people who are put in specifically for a reason, and that reason is to create violence and hurt people, and then take that, and then take that and spread it through the media. Oh, you see what the Patriots did? You see what the militia did? You see what the... They're all crazy. Do you follow what I'm saying? That's my fear, because they're really good at that.
So let me tell you about Antifa, because I know them. All right, I have faced them. I have faced them face to face, standing at the Robert E. Lee Monument in New Orleans before it was taken down, when they were assaulting those that were standing for the monuments. I faced them in Portland, Oregon, Berkeley, California. Let me tell you a little something about Antifa. Number one, they're violent because they believe in their indoctrination. They're uneducated as to what socialism and communism really are.
I agree. I'm in 100.
They're so firm in they're violent because they're so firm in how they believe. Right?
Ace, hang on a second. I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah. My point is exactly what you're saying. They have been conditioned or programmed, however you want to say it, to behave in a certain way. But now they're going to, if you will, infiltrate with a bunch of good people, good law-abiding people, and they're going to act up.
You know what? Here's why that's good. Because of their actions, how they act, like you said, they've been taught, they've been indoctrinated to believe the way that they believe, right? And through media, through education, where they say what we believe is wrong, communism is good, socialism works, right?
Yeah.
The government and mainstream media create these divisions. Antifa doesn't know us. If we go to an event, and this has happened many times when they're calling us racist, bigots, misogynistic, homophobic, Islamophobic, yada, yada, yada. When we sit down and actually have a discussion, we have a lot more in common than we do in different. You understand? If the Redneck Revolt, and when you say Antifa, Redneck Revolt and John Brown Gun Club are factions of Antifa. Right, they're the ones coming to the rally in Richmond, not Antifa themselves, but factions of Antifa that support the Second Amendment, John Brown Gun Club, and Redneck Revolt.
And the socialist, they call it Socialist Firearms Association or something. There's another group that's planning to come.
I'm not familiar with them, but my point is, if the government were to see us standing together, when they've tried so hard to indoctrinate both sides, to hate one another. You remember in 2000?
That's the greatest fear.
In this conversation, remembers where you were September 11th, 2001. You remember where you were when you watched those buildings fall out of the sky. What you may not remember for the 6 months after that, everything that you did that day, but what you will know for a fact is for the 6 months after that, we were united as a country. Your race, your color, your socioeconomic status, the car you drove, the color shoes you wear, what God you worship, none of that mattered, right? So the government sees that, oh my gosh, the people are united as one. They are super strong. The oldest military tactic in the book is divide and conquer. We have to fix that because we can't control them if they are united together. So then they create these different groups. You're a BLM, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all these different groups, and they create the division to pit American citizen versus American citizen because of belief, whether that be a belief of what you do in your bedroom or how much money you make or what God you worship. Those are, you said it best, man. It's a one world government that wants absolute and ultimate control. To do that, they want us to fight each other. That way we don't pay attention to what our government is doing behind us.
Their modus operandi.
So if the government were
if the
government were to see us standing together in Richmond, I'm for that. I don't believe the rhetoric that Black Lives Matter puts out, but if it comes down to it, I believe in Black Lives Matter. I'm a constitutionalist. I may not agree with what they believe, but I agree with their right to believe that way and express their opinion as long as they're not putting anybody else in fear. The same is true for Antifa or Redneck Revolt or anybody else, right? But if we come together as American citizens, regardless of where you live, what you drive, who you believe in, what you do in your bedroom, and we say, government, we're making a stand against you, like we did in Bunkerville and won, like I did at the 9/11 Memorial and won, like we did in Las Vegas, Nevada at the federal courthouse and won, where we've been to 12 different college campuses that have restricted freedom of speech and won. We've been to 9 different college campuses that have tried removing the American flag and won. We did that because we showed up. We did that because we reminded those places that it is in your best interest to fear us.
What does the one mean?
What does the one what mean?
What does one mean? What does one mean?
Winning means you can now use the front steps of the federal courthouse in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can now fly the American flag and carry the American flag at the 9/11 Memorial. There are the college campuses that we went to removed freedom of speech pins, small caged-in areas that say only your freedom of speech is allowed inside of that cage. There's a university in Oklahoma that tried removing an old church off of the grounds to separate church and state because they were still complaining that this antique church or this old church was on the grounds of a funded college university. Everything that we've done and been successful, we've done because we showed up, not because we had scientific theory as to.
May I ask you to not do something? Please don't use an ad hominem argument. Please don't make an argument saying because it's quote. I just mentioned that I'm a scientist because I didn't want you to think that I didn't think it out. Please don't do that. That's not respectable.
No. I'm not trying to argue with you or downgrade you or degrade you. All I'm saying is you talked for several minutes as to why people should not go to Richmond.
No, I didn't say they shouldn't go to Richmond. That's not what I said.
You said they should be aware.
Make sure that
fear-mongered about the change in traffic signals.
No,
and that kind of thing.
I'm just saying make sure you go with both your eyes wide open and understand that it's not the same as it was 2 weeks ago. That's all I was trying to say. And Rascala asked me to share my thoughts, so I did.
We are very aware of that, and we would love to have you standing there with us.
He was actually planning on going there.
I was planning on going there, but that's not a problem.
Sure.
All I was trying to suggest is make sure that you've got a reason to go, that you're willing to understand that going with both eyes wide open is the only point.
If we don't go,
at this point in time, if you don't know why you're going and why you're standing, you don't belong there. At this point in time, everybody willing to stand in Virginia knows exactly what they're up against.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's the truth.
Again, my fear is similar to David's fear, and that is these people that we are standing up against have had a long time to understand how people generally behave. And I just don't want to see good-hearted, hard-working people abused. That's my fear.
Don't you think our founders were scared when they fought the greatest military on the face of the earth at the time that they fought for our independence?
They were also very strategic.
Ace, please understand.
And they did things in a certain way that most of us don't have a clue about.
They did not let fear dictate their decision. Right?
Do you think our founders ran their plan through a diagram and dissected it and got the demographics and planned it out and ran it through YouTube for approval?
No, but they did use another system that was very, very well known. And
they shot tyrants in the face.
Well, and a system we don't even have anymore. A system we don't even have anymore. We don't even operate by original intent anymore. What you guys don't realize is there's a lot of talk going on right here. And you guys don't realize that your citizens under Congress, the United States Constitution, and you guys may not like this, was written for state citizens. And that was usurped after the Civil War during Reconstruction. So you have legal remedy already within your grasp without going and asking these fools permission or even intimidating them or showing up in numbers, okay? You have
It's not
remedy.
about intimidation. It's not about intimidation.
Whatever you want to call it. Whatever you can put whatever label you want on it. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
My point is you have lawful remedy.
Ace, let her finish her thought, please.
Yeah, please.
You have lawful remedy without showing power in numbers in that particular manner. You don't even need to show up with guns. You don't even need to. I don't know. I forget what term you used. Intimidate. You don't even have to do that. You don't even have to beg. Because
can I ask a question? Because you seem really smarter than me. So can I ask you a question?
Hold on, Mel.
Sure. I'm just a mom, guys.
Go ahead.
Would the 99 counties in Virginia be sanctuary 2A counties if people didn't go to the city council meetings?
We're not suggesting that that's.
I'm not suggesting that that's wrong.
If we don't have to go, if we don't have to physically be there to show that this is our will, would the counties have passed sanctuary city ordinances and county ordinances if people would not have gone to the meetings?
How many of those people came from out of state, though?
The answer is no.
That's not even my argument. Showing up there is not my argument. What you don't realize is when you have lawful remedy is, let's say you decide you want to have and carry a weapon because it is your God-given right to do so without paying them their fee, without asking for their license, and you do it anyway, okay? Now, what happens at that point? As a nationalized citizen, what took place after Reconstruction, they can take action against you. Now, what happens when we say, okay, I'm going to reestablish the rightful state of Virginia and I'm going to give power back to the people? they have no jurisdiction over you because you've pretty much said, hey, I'm not dealing in your system anymore. You've hit a government reset button that protects all rights, not just the ones you feel like standing up for. So there's more to this picture that people need to learn and understand. And it's not about begging our legislators anymore. I don't know about you guys, but I've been in the medical freedom movement for over 8 years. And now I've become a constitutionalist in the last, 3 years, 4 years. And now I'm trying to reestablish the state of Virginia. Why? Because the time for begging is over. But you know what? I can't do shit for my kids. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I can't do anything for my 3 young boys if I'm in a hole.
Yeah, well.
I'm not afraid to go to the Capitol, but I'm smart. And I know how to do it a better way. And that's all I have to say. But guys, I suggest you be open to these other suggestions. Go, show up in Richmond. That's awesome. I'm going to be on my knees, and I'm going to be in prayer for every single one of you out there. I think that is your right to do that. But I think at the same time, we need to be wise and pay attention to other things that are viable options. Because what you guys don't realize also is that history has been hidden from us in our public school system for a reason.
Yep.
Okay? And what you guys don't know is what they have taught you on purpose.
Agreed.
Yep.
I would like to say one thing. We need to be strategic.
Sister.
We need to be strategic, and that's that's the thing that we're trying to emphasize is what are we doing that's got a strategy behind it that goes. Let's continue to have people show up. Don't misunderstand.
Yeah, that's right.
But do it in a way that actually is going to achieve the remedy that we're trying to achieve.
Right. And I'm not begging my legislators anymore. I'm not begging my legislators.
Please listen to me. Brothers and
I'm
sisters,
listening to you.
please listen to me. Sister, I'm with you 100%. I am on your team. I am the same exact way. I am not out there looking for a revolution. I'm not out there looking for American citizens to get harmed. I'm looking to do this the legal way. But let's look at this the last even just 4 days. 4 days. Okay? Virginia has violated its own state laws.
Okay, but what I'm telling you is there's a way to go around that.
No.
You don't even have, 100%. 100%. And I wish Milo were here right now.
Not just me and my group, but 3 different fractions have gone to the courts. Those courts denied us our basic constitutional rights. So what did we do? We took it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme
Can you please
Court,
remind me? I didn't hear all of I didn't hear all of why you were there. Will you please give me an excerpt of why you were there?
What do you mean why I was there?
You said something was violated. I'm asking you what it was.
7
why did you go to court?
Constitutional rights have been violated by the state of Virginia's legislators.
Right, I
3
understand that.
different fractions, not just my group, but 3. Okay? Have taken this to court. In the last 48 hours, okay, a court system upheld Northam's right to deny us our right to carry, right?
I understand that. I'm sorry. I thought I thought you were talking about you personally. But you're still not understanding what I'm trying to explain to you. Is that it doesn't matter with reestablishing as a rightful de jure state, because we are under current de facto government. After you revert back to a de jure government, it gives the people, the state, right? Because that's what it was intended to be by our framers. We were supposed to be individual sovereign nations of people who told the government the federal government what their job was.
That's right.
Okay, so what we have now is we have a flipped situation of where now the federal government
Tells us
dictates
what
to
to
the
do.
state what they can and cannot do, for one. And
That's
two,
right.
you now have these legislators that stomp all over the people and your rights. How do they get away with that? I'm telling you, sister, that it's because you are a citizen of Congress, okay? They get to do what they want to because the Constitution was written for people of the several states, and it was meant to refrain the federal government from becoming the size it is. So my point to you guys is you have remedy outside of this de facto system to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to comply once you reestablish as a state citizen. If you were to do that as a nationalized citizen, you were saying, no, I'm not comply. Of course, you're going to get in all sorts of trouble potentially. Okay, so if you go back to a state citizen and say, I'm not recognizing your system anymore, it is de facto, it is unconstitutional. Every amendment passed, I believe the 12th Amendment, is in fact unconstitutional, so you can't even lean on that. So how do we fix this? We take it back to the people how our framers originally intended, and we have remedy. You guys can go into court and say, tell me what your jurisdiction is over me, and from that point on, how they choose to handle that, one, either proves that they are in fact unconstitutional, but they won't like that, and usually they'll push you right out of court. But it's being done in North Carolina.
Back to the state of Utah.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Hey, Riscala, Milo is on hold there.
Yeah,
if you want to pull him in.
I see him.
Oh, great.
I've got Milo, I've got Crissy, I've got Melanie, I've got Ace, I've got David. Everybody just hang on just a moment. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll continue a very interesting conversation. I want to thank each of you for calling in. I had asked specifically, the more people we get in, the more variable the conversation is, I believe the better for everyone. And there's a lot that I agree with. There's a little bit that I don't agree with. But I am so grateful that each of you have taken the time to do this. Thank you so very much. So bear with me. You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show. And we'll be right back.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now.
Hey.
I know that you're afraid.
Yep.
You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
There are facts we're not being told on TV, so I want to talk to you about gun control in America. Why did all of the big media focus their attention on the attacks in Orlando and completely ignore the fact that the following weekend 52 people were shot in Chicago, a city with some of the strictest gun control laws in the country? There seems to be an agenda for gun control while ignoring the gun violence in other cities and countries where the experiment of gun control is already underway and failing. I carry a gun because there are only two types of creatures on this planet, predators and prey. No one watches a cheetah chase down a gazelle and deny that the gazelle has the right to use its horns to protect itself. But there are people who would deny that same right of self-defense to other human beings. Such people seem to think that the way to stop the cheetah is to cut the horns off the gazelle. That somehow, if you make it easier for the predator will simply go away. It doesn't work that way. If you make it easier for the predator, you get more predators. I carry a gun because when predators know they're less likely to have an advantage, they're less likely to be a predator. The FBI found that when states allow concealed carry, murder rates are immediately reduced. And cities in America that pass a law requiring households to have a firearm see the number of home invasions drop dramatically. I carry a gun because the ratio a gun is used in a homicide is significantly less than when it's used in self-defense. Firearms are used up to 300 times more often to save innocent lives than to commit a murder, and guns prevent up to 2.5 million crimes in the U.S. every year, often without a single shot ever being fired. I carry a gun not because it's a weapon, but because it's a shield. 200,000 women every year use a gun to defend themselves against sexual abuse. I carry a gun because almost every mass shooting in the last 50 years took place in a gun-free zone. law-abiding citizens are forced to give up their right to protect themselves, while every criminal breaks the law, including gun-free signs, when they decide to murder. I carry a gun because a gun-free zone makes it easier for predators to target their prey. Stricter gun laws make the problem worse, and making guns illegal wouldn't remove murder from our cities any more than making heroin illegal stop addicts from doing drugs. I carry a gun because the facts are nations with strict gun control laws have significantly higher murder rates than those that don't. I carry a gun because I know in the U.S. scissors and knives kill almost 5 times more people every year than rifles do, including the AR-15 and other so-called assault rifles. Calling to ban a tool will not resolve the problem. I carry a gun because criminals break the law with or without them. The 9/11 terrorists used box cutters in airplanes. Timothy McVeigh used bags of assault fertilizer. I understand that some people want to blame things like semi-automatic rifles, 30-round magazines, hate crimes, terror threats, gun control, historic flags, national security, religion, or illegal immigration. I understand we want to blame something, anything that we can control. But don't blame me because I carry a concealed gun to protect my family. I understand we need to start addressing what we really want to ban: violence, murder, and insanity. I carry a gun because I know who's pushing to ban them. Our right to bear arms is not there simply to protect us against lowly criminals. I know the politicians know this, which is why they call for gun control instead of crime control. I carry a gun because I've seen gamblers who want more winnings, alcoholics who want more alcohol, and people with power want more power. I understand what the Founding Fathers knew, that the right to bear arms is there to protect the American people from those drunk with power, and I understand every country was free before it wasn't. I carry a gun because having the right to bear arms gives the citizens of this great nation a fighting chance against the predators of greed and power, whether in our home, our capital, or our neighboring lands. Evil exists only because too many good people stand by and do nothing. I know seeing America's right to free speech was a chilling wake-up call when it became locked away in a zone. That's why so many steadfast Americans and great organizations stand up for the people to keep the balance of power from tipping over. I carry a gun because it removes the unfair advantage between predators and prey. I don't carry because I'm looking for a fight. I carry a gun because I'm looking to be left alone. People can only persuade you to do something by one of two ways: reason or force. Having a gun with me removes their option to make me do something by force. It helps keep predators civilized. That's why the right to bear arms is important. That's why I own a firearm, and that's why I'm proud to say I carry a gun.
Listening to the Red Pill Reality Show on the LNM Network. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
Grace has some pretty stellar arms, like Serena Williams good, but her face is pretty disgusting.
Someone please tell him to go back into his closet and leave us alone.
Brittany's face is so stupid and I hate her so much. It's like a scientist created her in a lab to annoy humanity and didn't even do that good of a job.
Megan reminds me of a troll doll that came to life intent on killing us with her stupidity.
Why is Grace's head so big? It definitely has nothing to do with how smart she is and probably everything to do with how bloated she is.
He's so funny. Just kidding. Who would find this disfigured flamingo funny?
Never post a selfie of yourself. You look so ugly.
The only reason you have so many views is because we think you're a freak and we can't look away.
Megan is the main reason that the world sucks so much.
I would rather get cancer than listen to another Trevor Moran song.
You are a mistake. You should have never been born.
Drown yourself in a shallow puddle, please.
Wow, I hope she's sterile.
These really stopped being funny a long time ago.
You're so much more than the things that people say about you.
Those people have no right to say cruel things to you to make themselves feel better.
It's okay that you sound different than everyone else.
That's what makes you so special.
We will not tolerate it.
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 Every day, people make me feel like I stand out simply because of the way that I look.
Every day, people make me feel small.
Every day, I face the cruel words of bullying.
And every day, people tell me that I'm brave for enduring this humiliation.
But we're not the brave ones.
It's the ones that say no to the bullying.
The witnesses.
If we all join together, there's nothing that we can't do.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
When we see bullying online,
We will let the world know that we're going to take action with the I.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
Our actions will overpower cruel words.
I am a witness.
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 There is power in words.
But it's nothing compared to the power of the actions that we put behind our words.
Visit eyewitnessbullying.org to learn more.
I am a witness, and so are you.
I'm gonna stand by you.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
We have ignition. Strap in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, 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 take the red. You stay in Wonderland. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show with your host, Scala, every Saturday night on the LNM Network from 9 p.m. to midnight. And now your host, Scala.
All right, we are back. It is the Red Pill Reality Show. I am your host, Scala, transmitting live from Palm Beach County, Florida. And a very interesting, very, very interesting conversation. Each of you who have called tonight, thank you. I have Crissy on the line. I have Melanie on the line. I have Ace on the line. I have David on the line. I have Milo on the line. Each of these people have an important input to what is going on. And tonight we're discussing what's happening in Virginia. If you don't know what's going on in Virginia, you literally have had your head in the sand. How can you not know what's going on in Virginia? But in case you don't know what's going on in Virginia, there is an outright attempt to disarm the citizenry of Virginia, and the citizenry is responding in power. Here's my conundrum with what Crissy is asking and suggesting, that there is a legal way for us to get around all of this. I love that, because I don't want to see people shooting at each other. I've had my share of war, and I don't ever want to see war again. But I also see what Ace is saying. I followed the Bundy ordeal. And if you're not familiar with the Bundy story, it is a horror. It's a true horror. And their friends, I can't think of their friend's name right now, that were in another state that they went and stuck up for. These people were literally being put out of business by our wonderful government. Literally. Their stock was being killed, buried out in the desert where they couldn't find it until later on. It came to a standpoint one day. And so I understand where Ace is coming from, where if it hadn't have been for the Patriots that went there that day, and these rats, well, I'd like to use a different word, but turned tail and ran, because they came willing to murder. They were ready to murder citizens, but what they weren't expecting were citizens to show up so heavily armed that they looked like a kindergarten class. That's very emotional for me because I have, I don't ever want to see war in the streets in my country. And I would do everything that I can to avoid that. So I want to support what Crissy is saying. There's a legal way, Riscala. We don't have to even have the threat of that upon us. But then I see what's happened to people like Ammon Bundy. I see what's happened to the Hammonds. If you don't know about what's happened to them, you need to find out, because that's what our government does to people who stands up to them and doesn't have the bite behind them, the teeth behind them to stand before them and have a fair trial. These people were completely, totally terrorized. Imagine being put in solitary confinement for, God, I don't know how long. I think it was over a year that he was in solitary confinement. And what was his crime? His crime was standing up for his friend. All right. So Milo hasn't had an opportunity to speak. So let me get Milo. Welcome, Milo. Thank you. Let me give you an opportunity to say something. I'll bring the rest of you on. Please don't go away. Go ahead, Milo.
Thank you, Riscala. How are you tonight?
Emotional at times, my friend, but this is an important conversation for all of us. Because
it is an important conversation.
The direction in which we are headed scares me, to be honest with you, and it takes a lot to scare me. And I'm not scared for me. I'm scared for my kids and my grandkids. What's going to happen to them? At the rate that we're going, it's not going to take long. So go and let me give you an opportunity for your input. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thank you. First, I just want to apologize for coming on late. I want to apologize to all of you, including Melanie and Ace, who I don't know. I've never met you guys, but I appreciate your perspectives on this. And I feel like it was unfortunate that I missed hearing the majority of the first of what you said. I was listening before the break. But anyway, I wanted to say that, and I also wanted to say that I appreciate everything that David and Crissy are doing as well. I do know both of them, and I've been with David on this show a number of times. But to kind of get down to the point, because I know time is of the essence here, you mentioned the Bundys, actually, Riscala, and I didn't think about saying this before you said what you did just now when we came back from the commercial break, but I followed the Bundys, their entire situation, and I have great respect for them. Ammon and
real
Ryan
heroes,
and
real
Robin
American
and all
heroes.
Their families and all of it.
Amen.
I feel like if they had, and I said this even then, I said this when I was trying to convince a SCV camp in my county that it was worth their time to take a look at state citizenship and reestablishment, because that was what was going on in my life while the Bundys were doing what they were doing in Nevada and Oregon. And at that time, our SCV camp was just about to go to Oregon to support them physically with, a physical presence at the Malheur Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them then that I thought that there was a better way. And I still believe there's a better way. They didn't wind up going, and it wasn't because I talked them out of it. It was just because they didn't wind up getting organized enough to go, I guess. I'm not really sure. But the bottom line is that even at that point in time, I told them that, look, if the Bundys had the benefit of a legal argument, I mean, an absolutely solid legal argument that is incontrovertible, that would put into serious doubt the legitimacy of the entire system of government against which they were standing, then that would have been a nuclear bomb in their hands. That would have been leverage well beyond the numbers of people that showed up to support them in their effort. I agree with them on a matter of principle that what the government was doing to them was wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
I don't know to what degree it was actually illegal, though, and that's the thing, because I know that Crissy has mentioned this, that she got into some about standing, legal standing, as one form of citizen or another. But as a U.S. citizen, as a nationalized United States citizen, pursuant to the first clause of the first section of the 14th Amendment, pursuant to the first clause of the first section of the 14th Amendment, national citizens are literally creations of Congress. And there's a maxim in law that says that the creator is always greater than the created. The creator takes upon itself the role of principal, and the created takes upon itself or is given the role of agent. And so originally, you have to understand there was a reversal. There was literally this inversion in law of what the role and relationship between the people of the state versus the federal or national government, or I'll just call it the general government for conversational purposes right now. So originally, the people of the states pre-existed the general government because there was no general government, but there were the people of the various states. The states themselves were free, independent, and sovereign nations according to the Treaty of Paris.
I'm getting a little bit of wind from you there, Milo.
Yeah. My apologies. I walked back over here on the side. My family is in bed, so I was trying to keep them from being awakened. But the Treaty of Paris established the states as free, sovereign, and independent nations, and it named them individually. So the states preceded the general government. The people of the states created both their states and that general government. So it put the people above everything else. Unfortunately, though, that paradigm in law only lasted about 90 years, because in 1867 and 8, then it was inverted by a coup. Literally, Congress committed an act of treason that resulted in a coup d'etat and overthrew the federal government and took upon itself the role of the creator of a brand new status of citizen. And then it employed the United States military to coerce that status upon the people of the state.
Okay, hang on.
So,
hang on. Before we get deeper, let me give each of them an opportunity to have a response to what you're saying. Let me go with Ace first. Ace, your response to what you've heard so far.
Please.
Are you there?
Yeah. Are you talking to Melanie? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was.
Please, can I say something real quick before Ace goes?
Yeah.
These are not random fictional characters you're talking about. These are my friends. Jeanette Finicum is my friend. Lavoy Finicum was my friend. Ryan Bundy is my friend. Please stop referring to them as if they are fictional characters that don't mean anything but a story in a history book. They are real people.
I don't understand who referred to them in that manner. Did I?
The entire thing that man just said regarding the entire situation in Oregon was so...
the point that he's, Melanie, what you're missing is he's trying to make a legal point. They may not have broken, what they did was wrong. There's no question about that. Nobody questions that. Anybody who sees what has happened, my God, They terrorized that family and the Hammond family for that sake, and to meet their father at the airport with a freaking SWAT team. Who does stuff like this? My father's like, what, in his late 70s, and you meet with 12 people on a SWAT team at the airport to arrest a man. What kind of tyranny is that? So I don't want to take anything away from them, but I think what Milo was trying to point out is what they may have done may be actually legal, and that's the problem. That's where the point that I think, Milo, am I right? Is that the point you're trying to make? What they did may actually be legal because we are national citizens and not state citizens? Is that the point you're trying to make?
When you say they, you mean what, the government?
The government,
did,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, the government.
Yes,
The
what the
FBI
government-
murdered Lavoy Finicum with his hands up
I
on
saw
the
that.
side of the road.
Yep.
Please explain to me how that was legal. I'm listening.
Melanie, I absolutely agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I told you my heart is with them. I followed that entire ordeal from the beginning, and it both excited me and it terrified me. And granted, I mean, I never met Lavoy. In fact, I've never met any of them except I met Jeanette a couple of years ago at a Patriot convention in North Carolina when she came to speak. And we had a long conversation, and I really, truly did appreciate getting to meet her. And my heart goes out to those folks. But we have to learn to separate out two different things here. On the one hand, you have an emotionally charged personal situation. You say they are your friends, and I don't deny that in the least. But on the other hand, we have to maintain some sense of objectivity and rational approach to the way that we handle these situations, because if we can't do that, then we're not going to be able to see through the cloud of emotion to find an adequate solution to the problems that our friends face. Because I have friends that have been in situations not as dramatic or as nationally publicized as that, but I have friends that have been through situations just as terrifying and just as wrong. I mean, we have to find a rational way to contend with this issue.
Milo, let me go back to my statement. Let me go back to my statement for a second. Were you trying to point out that we all know what was done was wrong? What was done, was it somehow legal because of the status of the individual being a national citizen versus a state citizen? Is that what we're trying to get at? Let me bring David. I'm gonna bring David and Crissy on as well. All right, David and Crissy, you're both on as well. So Milo, I'm sorry, is that what you meant by that?
Yes. What the government did, there is a legitimate argument that it was not in violation of the law. Yes.
Okay. So
let me point out one other thing, Driscoll. I think it's important to say this. Melania, one of the things I hear you saying is, over the last few days, it seems like what's happened in Virginia is completely the opposite of what ought to have been ruled by the courts, and that the things that the governor had done should not be allowed to have continued down the road that they've gone. If it's looked at, if we're looking at it as regular American people wanting to see justice, it doesn't seem like justice is happening. Is that correct? Do you feel that way?
I do.
I absolutely feel that way.
Well, the whole
here's
point.
What happened. Because here's what happened.
We know what happened.
Put out a state of emergency, and then 3 different fractions went and filed an injunction to try and stop that state of emergency, based on the fact that it violated Virginia statute HB 20 that was passed in 2012 that says you can't call a state of emergency to prevent people from gathering and assembling and protesting.
Might I
then what
interject for 1
happened
second?
was it went to a court and it got upheld for Northam, and then it went to Virginia Supreme Court, which got upheld for Northam.
Okay, hang on just a minute.
Can I follow up on that?
Hang on, David. Crissy wants to, I'm sorry, Melanie, the only way I can control this right now is to temporarily mute you. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Give me a second. Crissy wants to say something. Let me give her an opportunity, and then we can get right back to maybe David or back to Melanie. Go ahead, Crissy. What was your thought?
Just a quick something I wanted to point out about that particular bill. I believe it's HB 20, and it was passed back in 2012. there were certain stipulations in that particular bill. Yes, it was passed, but the governor also has the ability to continue on with this egregious overreach if it met a certain criteria. Unfortunately, the way obviously this governor works is he fits anything to, he'll change whatever to fit whatever so he gets what he wants. So he has acted within his rights, and this was a lawyer that did put out this little tidbit of information. But if you read the actual bill, there are certain stipulations under that bill that say the governor has every right to do what he's doing under these three circumstances, and he did fit underneath those circumstances as far as a legal team was concerned. So I just wanted to throw that out there, which is probably why nobody's paying any attention to it, because as far as everybody else is concerned, he has worked well within his rights.
All right.
As invented.
You can read the bill for yourself and see what those three criteria are.
Yeah, it's not about the bill. It's as invented. Let's look at the timeline.
I'm not sure what you mean. You said HB 20 was back in 2012. It's been passed forever. Obviously, you can't declare a state of an emergency. It was a bill that was passed. I'm just stating that three criteria under that bill had to be met in order for the governor to bypass that, which is as far as the legal team that was there or that went over the bill said he had every right.
And what I'm saying is Northam created a situation.
Yeah. He invented
fiction.
it. Yep.
Right. I understand that. I'm just saying, yes, he created a situation to work within the right he had of that bill.
We call that CYA. That's CYA.
So
that's what that is.
So, for instance, for instance, the GOP was like, could you please give us an explanation as to the state of emergency? And then 3 hours later, the news articles came out that there was a credible threat.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. I'm not meaning to argue with you. I 100% agree that they are shady as all get out. But he created whatever situation to fit the narrative so that he was working within his right of that particular bill. So it's shady. It's all shady.
So, all right. So here's my concern with all of what's happening. Clearly, there are very high emotions. I have a hard time holding my emotions tonight because I think of what my friends did for this country, and we found out it was a lie, and now these people are blatantly attacking law-abiding citizens. And it's difficult for me to just remain unemotional about that. I'm the kind of guy that it's the way I'm wired. I can't. If we're walking down the street and you're on the street side and I'm on the, away from the street and I see a car coming at you and I'm yelling at you, you're not paying attention, I'm going to grab you and pull you out of the way. You may get mad at me, but that's the kind of guy I am. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why we did the 9 shows about the ability to restore something that was stolen from us. Again, the conundrum here is we don't have any teeth. We have the law. We know what the law is, and I'm not pretending I'm not part of that we. I'm relatively ignorant, but I know enough to tell you that something happened that was illegal. It would be the same as me coming to your home and stealing from you and making you think that I gave you a gift. And then later on, you finding out that the gift I gave you was in fact nothing. It's what had happened is that I stole from you, and you wanting whatever it is that I stole from you back. That's what we're talking about. In the late 1800s, 1867, I think it was, this is what we're talking about. Our sovereignty as state citizens was stolen from us. Because of that, we're subject to this nonsense, this insanity that we're witnessing today. That's what they're talking about. It's difficult to wrap my mind around it, but that's really what it boils down to.
I don't know that anybody disagrees with that. I don't think that anybody is going, especially on this panel, is going to disagree with the sovereign citizen, independent individual.
Wait. It's not. Let me clear. That's not sovereign citizen.
Well, okay. Well, it's very similar. Okay.
No, it's not.
We all
It's
agree.
not. It's not.
Okay.
It's not similar at all, actually. Let me clarify really quickly. Sovereignty devolved upon the state as bodies. and those states were sovereign entities as bodies. That was
Agreed.
what was stolen through Reconstruction. It was not that individuals were sovereign. That's a patriot myth, and that will get you in a world of trouble.
Oh, today,
so I'm
absolutely.
just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and I appreciate that. But what makes you think that if with the level of corruption today, why would the government relinquish that power because of the argument of the Reconstruction in 1865?
Two things, if I may. Riscala, am I good for a moment?
Yes, please.
Okay. Two things. One is, and I can tell you this for a fact, the de facto system that exists today does not want this argument, these facts, to be put on record in a court of record. So that's one piece of leverage, one piece of the leverage that we have in using a legal argument. We gain standing, we put ourselves on the moral high ground, that is to say also the legal high ground, and they don't want that information to get out and be generally made public knowledge. So we have an argument that puts us in the right, puts them in the wrong, disparages or casts doubt upon the legitimacy of their entire system of government, proves that they are acting under mere color of law and not law in fact. And as a consequence of that, then we have the opportunity in making that argument and taking that stand, we have the opportunity for publicity, for media coverage, whether it's grassroots media coverage or, mainstream media coverage or whatever, any kind of coverage that someone charged with a quote-unquote crime, a violation of de facto statute, being brought into court, making this argument, challenging the jurisdiction of the existing state, they're not going to want that to be widely known. But in order to hide that, they either have to dismiss the charges or they have to take you into a military commission and have you undergo some secret trial where no media is allowed. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't resort to those extremes, but even in that, even at those extremes, the possibility is there that we could still disseminate enough information, especially if there's enough of us that are standing together. The second point is that government's not going to willingly relinquish its so-called authority. It's actually not authority at all. It's just mere raw power. But they're not going to willingly relinquish that. So, we're not expecting their courts that are paid by their taxpayers to do that. But that's why we aim to bring more people into a situation of awareness and participation in lawful government. Because as we reestablish the lawful government and people begin to migrate from the de facto system to those lawful governments, then two things happen simultaneously. One is the lawful governments grow and become stronger and more robust. The other is the de facto system loses people, which means they lose tax base, they lose participation, they lose participants in every aspect of their entire system of government. People make a conscious choice to leave that system because they now know that it is a hollow shell of what it pretends to be, and to migrate over, to move to and participate in something that is actually legitimate in law and bound by law, which is a critical point. Because that system, as we've been saying tonight, that system is not bound by law. That system makes it up as they go. Melanie just said it. Northam makes up whatever he wants as he goes. His legislators, who are in the pocket of the Bloomberg cabal, they make up whatever legislation they want as they go, and it's a sham. But
there's no one available to stop it. That's the other half
That's
of the
the
problem.
frustration.
We have no teeth to be able to arrest the. Now, I don't mean arrest in the sense of arresting, but
to stop.
Police power, but to stop the misfeasance, to stop
That's the frustration.
Illegality.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
So you-
David, you having said that, see, now I can see where Ace is coming from, because where his experience is, when numbers showed up, they backed down. You follow what I'm saying?
But
So-
it's only in temporary. In other words, is it getting to the main end game that we're trying to achieve, where we fix the whole problem, or are we constantly
All right,
putting
good
out
point.
fires over
Yeah.
and over and over again? That
Good
would
point.
be my question.
Okay, good point. Good. This is why
How
I,
do you
this
fix
is why
the
I
law
enjoy
without
having.
diminishing the one that was broken?
Say it again, Melanie.
How do you fix a law without diminishing the one that was broken?
How do you fix a
Not
law
quite sure
without
I follow.
diminishing the one that was
I
broken?
understand your question.
How do you say we're going to put this back into a state of lawless or a state of lawness? How do you say we're going to put this back constitutionally without absolutely obliterating what was broken? Tell me that.
Just make a
Tell me.
You make a conscious choice, Melanie, that you want to participate in a lawful government. And as more people do that, as more people learn this information and make that choice, then the obliteration of the de facto system will happen. But it will happen not because you pick up. It will happen. Hold on a minute. It will happen not because you pick up a gun and gather all your friends and go, assault it. It will happen because those people will all leave it.
The people.
Okay, so explain this to me, because I'm going to be honest with you people. I'm not an intellectual. I'm not a college graduate. I'm not a scholar, if you will. I'm just a regular, everyday American chick trying to raise my kids by myself and live in a free land that was promised to me. So you explain this to me. Explain it.
But you're smart, Melanie. We can explain it. This is not difficult, and I respect that you are. You probably have more common sense because you're not educated in any higher
Amen.
education.
That's right.
So you get my
I would
respect. You're not
concur
getting any
with that.
disparagement from me.
Yeah.
No, by all
Okay.
means.
So Milo, explain, because I had the same question, Melanie, to let you know, because what they were telling me was blowing my mind. I'm going 6 years into this show. I have never spent more than one show on one subject. I spent 9 shows on this subject, because when they told me what they told me and I found out what I found out, I said, holy smokes, no wonder everything is out of imbalance, because that's what we have today. If you really think about what's going on, we have an imbalance. When everything was put together, if you have an idea of how the forefathers really wanted everything to work, they wanted a balance between the citizenry and the government. The citizenry was always to be in equal power with the government. The government was not supposed to ever outpower the citizenry, because once they did, we're witnessing what we're seeing today. So let me go back to Milo. Milo.
No, we are the fourth branch of the government. That's a fact. We
But
the
not-
people
but
are
not
the
in
fourth
practice.
branch of the government.
But not in practice. The point is, we're not in practice. We don't have the mechanism, we don't have the authority, and we don't have the access to the information we need to be able to do what we're supposed to do. It's been ripped from us. It's been stolen from us. But go ahead, Milo.
I absolutely love what Milo is saying. The problem with what Milo is saying is to work against all of the things that are in place today, the educational system, the mainstream media, to re-educate people and turn them into what Milo is saying is the reconstruction of 1865 and how we went from state citizen into national citizens. We all get it. But to re-indoctrinate, if you will, if you know anything about indoctrination, with my background, law enforcement and the United States Army SEER School, to re-indoctrinate, to reteach those that have been taught in the current system, I would love, if you have a way to reach more people than what mainstream media reaches, please tell us, because I have 540,000 people on my social media account, and I'm lucky to get a few thousand people on each like. So yeah, go ahead.
It literally takes one person to light that flame. okay? And you
Yeah,
said it
yeah.
yourself. You have over
Yeah,
a
I've been doing
million
this for-
followers. Yeah, you're a smart guy, okay? I think what you're doing is great. I think there's power in numbers, 100%. And I think there is a point where the power in numbers and the legality of the situation need to come together. And this is actually something we had been, David, Milo, myself, and many others have been hashing out amongst ourselves. We need to mesh the two. You're a smart dude, but you gave yourself the solution in exactly of what you said. I have 500,000 followers on my page, and I can get a few thousand people to pay attention to me. You have the key.
No,
so
no,
what
no,
what it
She's
takes
right.
No, if
what
I
it
was
takes is leaders like you understanding and educating. We're not indoctrinating. We're educating people
indoctrination
of
is
what
that's
actually. When
Yeah,
I think of
we're trying
indoctrination,
to-
I think of something that's forced for an agenda. Okay,
Well,
we are
Crissy, I think
educating
what
people as.
I
sorry,
think
go
what
ahead.
he's saying is that the people are indoctrinated, and so we have
Yeah,
to undo
100%.
that.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Yes, they are.
Yeah,
And it is 100%, but you answered your own question. People like you and Melinda, right?
Correct.
Melanie, I'm sorry. People like you
I
and
apologize.
Melanie are the keys because you guys, you're strong individuals, you're patriots, you have a big voice. And that's what people need to hear. So,
Okay,
don't discount yourself.
Let me throw in.
Can I
I'm not
interject
discounting
real
myself at all.
quick? Can I interject real quick? Like, I don't discount myself. Do you know why? Because I am the average everyday American citizen.
Yes.
That's
I
great.
am everybody listening to this right now. I am just a regular chick who's tired of being like completely screwed over by the government that I support.
And that's awesome. That's great because the world needs to hear people like you because you're relevant. Okay?
Exactly.
What Abe is doing,
me, though.
I'm sorry, what?
I said don't condescend to me, though.
I did not condescend you. I addressed the fact
because
that you
what I'm
keep
trying
saying,
to
I'm
explain to you-
uneducated, I'm this, I'm that. No, you're not. I'm trying to tell you, you're a powerful individual.
What I'm trying to explain to you is that the reason that I'm a powerful individual is because I'm just that chick. I'm just another average, everyday American citizen. We should not have to be educated or scholarly or anything else to be able to be entitled to our Bill of Rights.
There's a difference between being educated and learning truth. Like, we're not talking about education, go into a college and learn it. We're talking open up a book for yourself from the library. That's all we're saying. So nobody is like, you have to do this in order to understand what we're talking about. I'm a mom of 3 little boys. I run around wiping rears all day and wiping noses and making sure my kids are healthy and making sure that the government doesn't romp all over my rights as a parent. So I understand
and what I'm telling you
what
is,
you're saying.
whether somebody knows that or not, they're still entitled to the Bill of Rights.
Well.
Okay, I don't. Okay.
Except
And
that may be true, but let me
it.
give you an example of how that it might not be that simple. For example, right now the people in Virginia, in many Tazewell County and others, or Tazewell, I can't remember how you say it, Tazewell or Tazewell County.
Yep.
They have passed an ordinance that they want their militia back in that county, and they believe that because they've created that ordinance, that they literally can go down that road and at some point in the future get that back. But it's not that simple because of the ways that the laws are written and the ways that they're being applied as national citizens. It is not going to happen. And people don't realize that there are people that have to figure out what's going on if we're going to do it in a way that's actually going to work, that's actually going to result in what the people want. And sorry, some of us have had to go and study some things to figure that out. And it's not because we're smarter than anybody else or we think we're better than anybody else. It's just that that's our specialty. That's the thing that we've taken the time to figure out. I've dedicated 12 years of my life, not because the government literally destroyed my family. That's why I'm in this, okay? And so, again, we want to come up with a remedy. We want to come up with something that's actually going to achieve what we're all looking for, where regular, normal, average, law-abiding citizens, normal people, are able to have the blessings of liberty that's been promised in our Constitution in the preamble of it. And we can live in a way where we have a civil society and people are just able to have the freedoms that they want and enjoy. And so this isn't about anybody being smarter or dumber than anybody else. This is about how do we all work together to protect freedom and protect our inalienable and constitutional rights of being intruded upon by a rogue government. And that's really what we're seeing happening right now.
Guys, before we move on, can I say something real quick, please? Because I think this is an answer not only to the question that Ace asked, but also to the point that Melanie has tried to make, and also it follows right in suit with what David just said.
All right, go ahead.
Jefferson once said something, one sentence: if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. And he's absolutely right about that. I mean, David said that we're not trying to do all of this research and put these facts out there so that we feel better about ourselves and feel superior to other people. That's absolutely true. We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for all of us. And it's just a fact of life that if people want to enjoy the blessings of liberty, then they have to undergo whatever the fatigues are. I think that was a Thomas Paine quote. But they've got to know, they've got to learn. They've got to take it upon themselves to learn. And when Ace was speaking, and this is to answer his inquiry from about 12 minutes ago. When Ace was speaking a little bit ago, he said, "Well, show me how we undo the indoctrination." And I don't know, other than just talking to people, doing exactly what I'm doing tonight, and what I do on Facebook, and what all of us, I mean, we're just advocates. We're advocates for freedom and information and knowledge. And I don't know any other way. There is no shortcut to a quality result. I mean, I'm a carpenter by trade, and I know for a fact if you take shortcuts and try to do things in a pardon my language, but a half-ass way, you get a half-ass result. And you wind up with a situation where your house is going to fall in on you. So,
and therein lies the problem, right?
If you want something done right, you got to do it right. And I think we can, but regardless, people are going to say, well, hold on a second. I can address that as well, Ben, if we want to go that route. But I think there's
I'm just saying, herein lies the problem. Herein lies the problem.
Yeah, there's an implied problem.
If all we have is word of mouth through this radio show, which may, let's just, I don't have any idea. Maybe it reaches a few thousand, maybe it reaches, to tens of thousands. I don't know. But if all we have is word of mouth, and we're fighting the system of mainstream media, the educational system from K to 12 through the higher education learning, the college education system, if we're fighting against that, we're going to have more than just word of mouth. Right, and we've kind of gotten away. We've kind of gotten away from the reason that I came on this thing to begin with, and just to kind of link the two parts together, without going to these types of events. That Virginia is what's happening on Monday is bigger than just Virginia, right? I'm a firm believer that once you stand up, it's impossible to sit back down. The problem is getting you to stand up, right? Inertia is really hard to fight. So. Once I think educating those through our actions, through being involved, through more than just an internet radio show here and there, we're never going to reach the people that the college education system reaches, or that the mainstream media reaches, right? But to have something like the event on Monday, where if there's 100,000 people there, and you're passing out flyers, and you're speaking to the people there, what you want them to do is then leave Virginia, because a lot of them are going to be from out of state, and go to their own hometowns, their own cities. Being active, facing your fear of what may happen on Monday, or what may what's happening on Monday is bigger than just Virginia, right? It's going to motivate others to stand in their states, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you're absolutely right, Ace. You're 100% right, because I don't think anybody here was saying don't show up. I think the wisdom behind it was to be wise and watch yourself. But you're absolutely 100% right that we as patriots have to take advantage of those opportunities that are presented to us. And make no mistake that us on this call, myself, Milo, David, we go to extraordinary lengths. We don't operate just on Facebook. We don't operate just on this phone call. We were asked to be on this phone call. So please don't make the mistake to thinking that. Please don't. That's great. I'm glad you're here. I'm just trying to make a point that this is not our only outlet. We don't sit on our hands doing nothing. We still show up at rallies. I'm not trying
to suggest that you do. That's not my point.
I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying you're right. Is what I'm saying. We understand what you're saying. I 100% agree with you.
Ace, we even took some time. We've been strategizing on the potential of going to Virginia for no other purpose than to put the message out and get people to understand where there's a better remedy than just going and marching on the Capitol. We literally have a plan. We're working on a plan in that respect.
For the last 7 days, asking me for my PDF file so they can use it in their own state. Okay? So, it's not like everybody just comes on here and is like, I'm on a radio show, I'm trying to say something cool, blah, blah, blah. No. All of us, every single one of us, me, Ace, all of you guys included, do things outside of the public knowledge that matters.
Yep.
Well, that's what Crissy was saying.
That's a fact.
Well, that's you just what am I trying to say? You're backing up what Crissy was saying. They don't operate in one area. They operate in a wide variety of areas to reach the maximum amount of people.
Yeah, and so do we. So don't
There wasn't a criticism. That was just a comment she was making to make a point
it's not
that
a
we're all agreeing on.
criticism. What it is very condescending, actually.
It's not. It's absolutely
and
not.
I'm kind of getting over it.
Okay, I'm sorry that you feel that they're being condescending to you. I don't see it that way, Melanie. I see it as they're just stating how they feel. They're giving their opinion, but I don't think anybody means to be condescending to you or Ace. I think that, and if you look at, this is all recorded, you can go back and listen to it. If you go back and listen to it, you'll see.
It's not me or Ace or anybody specific. What it is that, there's a definitely air, a definite
atmosphere,
something in the air of this program of, blah, 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 I'm so smart, I'm so intelligent, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Newsflash, it doesn't matter. The Bill of Rights is entitled to everybody, no matter how intelligent or not they are. And that's my point, and that's my position, and that's it.
Okay. Well,
I
thank you.
don't care how smart you think you are. The Bill of Rights is for everybody.
I don't hear anybody disagreeing with that, Melanie. I think everybody on the call agrees with that. I don't think that they refer to how...
Yeah, actually, I don't think everybody on the call agrees with that. But
actually, I would agree. I would agree that it's not, and that's kind of the whole point. Is that the Bill of Rights, the rights that natural rights, the rights that we all have been brought up believing that we are entitled to, that entire set of rights, that entire concept of liberty and justice for all and the American way, it's a hard thing to learn that that's a lie. But in the system of government that we have in this country today, that's exactly what it is. It is a lie. And until people gather sufficient knowledge, not only to understand that that is a lie, that it is literally a hollow shell that we have been fibbed to since childhood.
Oh, for generations.
Until people gather enough knowledge to be able to comprehend that fact and then to move beyond that and fix it, then we're going to be stuck in this same vicious catch-22 of thinking we have something that we don't in fact have because of what status and law we ascribe to. And when you sign a voter registration application and you say, yes, I'm a United States citizen, you're saying you are a 14th Amendment citizen, essentially a subjugated serf. You're saying that you're a tax slave to a system that does not believe that you honestly have the rights that accrue from God to human beings. And, I mean, you said not everybody on this call believes that the Bill of Rights is there and applicable to everybody. I agree with you. I'm one of the people on this call that doesn't believe that that Bill of Rights is being applied to everyone or that everyone has a claim to it. You should, but you've got to put yourself in the proper legal standing in order to have a legitimate claim to it.
That's
I'll
not right. That's not the truth. That's
That is the
actually
truth.
not, in fact, the truth. The
Now,
entire thing starts with we, the people of the United States of America. That means regardless of your education, regardless of your wealth statute, regardless of your position in this world, if you are we, the people of the United States of America, you are entitled to these Bill of Rights. So what you said just now is absolutely yes, and I disagree.
Who were the people
What he's
of the
saying,
United
Melanie,
States who wrote that?
Up to 1865, before 1865, before you were the Reconstruction of 1865, right? I mean, that's what you're saying. Is that
1867?
Since then,
more or less,
since that Reconstruction, you're no longer a citizen of the state. You're a citizen of the federal government.
Right.
And therefore, the documents before that time mean nothing.
Correct.
Right. I mean, under our current state of being owned by the federal government instead of being citizens of the state, that's what they're saying.
Exactly. That's it.
They're not arguing with what the document says or what its initial intent.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right.
That is correct.
That's what was stolen from us. That's the deception that was created, and taking away from the sovereignty of the states. See, if we were still operating under those guidelines, what we would have, and David is much more familiar with this than I am, but if I see it correctly, what we would have in Virginia is a militia. The militia would be the common person. They would be neighbors. And so if the governor said, hey, I want you to go take the guns, I go, did you hear what he just said? Nobody would take this guy seriously if we were under the correct. You follow what I'm saying? Does it make sense to you?
No. I absolutely, and I absolutely agree with that. And that's through the indoctrination. I mean, if you guys watch when Soleimani was killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of calling him a general, a lot of mainstream media called him leader of a militia.
Yeah.
That is so you can.
It's the villainization.
Of the word militia. And
exactly.
The redefinition of words.
Exactly.
Right? So, we all get that. I'll tell you this, man. I appreciate what each and every one of you are doing. Melanie, I love you. And I'm on my way to Virginia. We're going to do fantastic things on Monday. I hope you guys come and join us. We are going to educate the uneducated, which is what you're trying to do. We're going to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters. I'm coming a long way to be here, and I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. I've got to go.
Hey, Ace. Ace.
God bless you guys.
Okay, listen, Ace, before you hang up, we got to figure out how we can connect. So we'll reach out to you. I'd love to continue the dialogue.
Yeah, Melanie's got my number. You guys can also reach me. Send me a message on American Warrior Revolution. I check all those myself. And thank you guys for doing what you do. Thank you for your time on the call. And just
Hey,
keep doing good things.
Thank you.
Stay
Have
healthy
a
and
safe
keep
trip,
your head
Ace.
down.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys. Take care. God bless.
Thank you, Ace, and thank you for your input. Greatly appreciate it, my friend. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back. I still have Crissy, I have Melanie, I have David, and I have Milo, and it has been an extremely interesting conversation. And each of you, thank you. I greatly appreciate the one thing that each of us has that we don't know how much of that we own, and that is time. So when we volunteer our time to help educate other people, that's the greatest gift that we can give one another. We take out from our lives literally to share with other people our opinions and the education that we have, what we know, what we don't know. And when I say education again, I don't want anybody to feel like it's a college thing. Education is life. It's learning about life and what life is. And anyway, let me go to a break, and we'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show tonight, and very interesting conversation. Don't go away.
You're listening to the Red Pill Reality Show on the LNM Network. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
Grace has some pretty stellar arms, like Serena Williams good, but her face is pretty disgusting.
Someone please tell him to go back into his closet and leave us alone.
Brittany's face is so stupid and I hate her so much. It's like a scientist created her in a lab to annoy humanity and didn't even do that good of a job.
Megan reminds me of a troll doll that came to life intent on killing us with her stupidity.
Why is Grace's head so big? It definitely has nothing to do with how smart she is and probably everything to do with how bloated she is.
He's so funny. Just kidding. Who would find this disfigured flamingo funny?
Never post a selfie of yourself. You look so ugly.
The only reason you have so many views is because we think you're a freak and we can't look away.
Megan is the main reason that the world sucks so much.
I would rather get cancer than listen to another Trevor Moran song.
You are a mistake. You should have never been born.
Drown yourself in a shallow puddle, please.
Wow, I hope she's sterile.
These really stopped being funny a long time ago.
You're so much more than the things that people say about you.
Those people have no right to say cruel things to you to make themselves feel better.
It's okay that you sound different than everyone else.
That's what makes you so special.
We will not tolerate it. We will not tolerate it.
We will not tolerate it.
We will not tolerate it.
Every day, people make me feel like I stand out simply because of the way that I look.
Every day, people make me feel small.
Every day, I face the cruel words of bullying.
And every day, people tell me that I'm brave for enduring this humiliation.
But we're not the brave ones.
It's the ones that say no to the bullying.
The witnesses.
If we all join together, there's nothing that we can't do. We will no longer be the silent majority.
When we see bullying online,
We will let the world know that we're going to take action with the eye.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
Our actions will overpower cruel words.
I am a witness.
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 There is power in words.
But it's nothing compared to the power of the actions that we put behind our words.
Visit eyewitnessbullying.org to learn more.
I am a witness, and so are you.
I'm gonna stand by you.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
We have ignition. Strap in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
All right, you are listening to the Red Pill Reality Show, a very interesting conversation we're having tonight. Really some great ideas being tossed back and forth. I think we lost Melanie on that last break. And Melanie, if you're still listening, please call back in. I'd like to hear your input before the end of the show. We've got about another 15 or 20 minutes or so. I suspect that some people are, and this is true for me, very emotional about this subject. We care a lot about this country. People like my friends who served for this country believing that we were serving for the betterment of the country and for the people of the country, to find out that we are lied to and our government is criminal, really. And there's just, let me clarify that. There are people within our government that are criminal. I don't think the government itself is capable of being criminal. If it operates by the rules that are in place, I think that would be almost an impossibility. But the people who operate the government, that's a different story. And so it becomes very emotional for some of us when we discuss some of these subjects. And I'm concerned that sometimes as we try to meet halfway or find a common bond, the emotions get involved and they don't allow us to see clearly what people are trying to say. And that's exactly one of the things that we're trying to avoid. We're trying to hear your ideas and then have you listen to our ideas. And then somewhere between all that, I've said many times, there's nobody that has all the answers. But I can promise you this without question in my mind. If we all come together, we'll figure out what the answer is. And it doesn't require rocket scientists. It doesn't require brain surgeons. It just requires everyday people, because everybody is a part of the puzzle. And when you feel like you're not part of the puzzle, or you feel for whatever reason you're not fitting in, something is causing that feeling. And much of the time it's emotion. You're emotionally charged with the subject that we're talking about. And I still am. I still get that way. But I do my best to recognize that it's emotions that are playing a part of the conversation rather than rationality and logic. And really that's what we need. I could see every point that Ace was making, especially about turning up in numbers and making sure that these people understand there are loads and loads and loads of people who are really ready to respond to them. I can understand that. I can also understand Crissy's point of view. We have a legal right to something that was stolen from us, and all we want is to have it back. And I think the issue really is, where do we get the teeth to do that? Well, Milo said we could go to a court and we could file in a court asking the court what authority. Where did you get your authority? What I can't even talk anymore. It's getting late. Forget it. Anyway, who gives you the right to do what you do? Well, what happens if the court that you're dealing with is corrupt? Because we have a lot of corrupt courts. I think about the Bundy thing. They may have, somebody pointed out that the court may have been operating within their legal right. We all know what they did was wrong. But if the people had fought a level playing field, if the court wasn't so corrupt, some of the things that I saw happen during that whole ordeal was just jaw-dropping. I just couldn't believe some of the things that were going down. But again, I learned that it's the court system that has become corrupt. So, I hope I'm making sense. Here's my conundrum with all this. I can see where Ace was talking about we have to have numbers, and I agree. Without numbers, we're not spit. But I also see where Crissy and Milo are coming from, and David. We have a legal stand. Why don't we make a legal stand? My concern is, where's our teeth? Let me go to Crissy. Hasn't had an opportunity to say a whole lot. Crissy, where are our teeth in any of this?
Well, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I'm always going to go back to reestablishment. I think that's where the teeth lie. And I think that is where our legal standing lies, to be able to fight any of these gross overreaches that we are experiencing. There's a reason that they are getting away with it, and it's because of the 14th Amendment. And it paved the way for all of this to happen, and it goes back to Reconstruction and the subsequent 14th Amendment. And I think our remedy will always be to fix that.
So, Milo, in your mind, you mentioned earlier we could go to court, right?
We have, in the NCAR, we have used the courts, the de facto courts, for 20 years, primarily as a testing ground for the argument. And, it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card by any means. You and I and David have talked about this before, and John as well. So, yes, there is a role for the courts, and they do, technically speaking, have an obligation to uphold the Constitution, although we see over and over again that they either decline or refuse to do so in an adequate way. But if you're asking about teeth, teeth, the very word teeth implies force. That is, two cats in a yard fighting use their claws and their teeth, not to have an argument, but to have a brawl. And, when it comes right down to it, force is an element in human nature that people have to address and attend to. Now, it should always be subject to the civil authority and the laws, and force should always be governed in that way. Otherwise, it becomes an instrument of injustice rather than an instrument of justice. But, I know that you're going to go to David next, and you're going to ask David, where do you look for the teeth? And David's going to say militia. And the thing I would say about militia is, yes, those are the proper teeth for the people, for the state. But I've got to, I guess, qualify that by saying which state, which people, which body of people have a right to have those teeth. And the body of people that have a right to have the militia are the body of people who have declared themselves to be state citizens. They were the ones that had that institution in the beginning, and they are the ones that rightfully could reinstitute it. And any body of U.S. citizens that are trying to form militias. Now, David can dig into the public versus private and a whole bunch of other aspects of it too. But even if they're trying to do what Tazewell County was doing and try to reinstitute in some form or fashion, according to some arguably civil authority, even if they're trying to institute a militia that way, they're still not doing it the right way. And it's not to disparage their aim. They have the proper end in mind. They just don't know all of the relevant and required facts of history and law in order to implement it properly. And what they're going to wind up doing, in my opinion, is they're going to end up putting themselves in a very precarious position where they've staked out a claim. The county supervisors and whatnot have staked out a position that they're going to stand on, but then they're going to realize that they don't actually have the substance of law to stand on it. So they're either going to have to renege on that to their people, or they're going to have to stand up on the position that they've staked out and risk literally everything in terms of their jobs, their own liberty. They might wind up in jail because of the fact that they're doing something they're eventually going to find out that they don't have the authority and law to do, because they don't know everything. If they knew the relevant facts, they could do this in the right way, and then they would have just a rock solid legal argument for trying to achieve the end that they're aiming at. And so I'll rest now and let you move on and ask David, but that's what I would say about teeth.
All right, David, let's hear it.
I was led in my thinking to a quote by a very nefarious character who many people in looking at the history of the world would say was probably as much a totalitarian dictator controlling a very large number of people, probably more than any in the history of the world, Mao Zedong. In the Red Book said, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. And what is the issue that's all of a sudden become a lightning rod? It's the fact that the people of Virginia are feeling threatened that the barrel of the gun is not going to be available to them anymore. And it has caused a hornet's nest like we haven't seen in a very long time. And so the question really is, why is it that the people of that state are all of a sudden rising up to the extent that they had to take city council meetings and move them into gyms? What is it what's the nerve that's being hit? It's the nerve of personal self-interest in the context of self-preservation and self-defense. And people know that having that taken from them is a very threatening thing. It's a risky thing. And so the teeth is having a legitimate government of the people, by the people, for the people, that is in place with the proper structure and authority for it to operate, in which that well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. But all of it being put in place in the proper context, one in which the people ourselves are once again the kings and queens of our society. The Declaration of Independence changed the sovereignty from the King of England to the people of the United States, the good people of the United States. And the good people of the United States are organized within the jurisdiction of states with all of the rights and privileges of that particular political body that, as it says in the first part of the Declaration of Independence, it says that how does it say it? The separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. And so, in my mind, and what I think we're trying to help the people understand is how we can create a reboot. You know, it's a very modern term. If you talked about it 30 years ago, people wouldn't know what you're talking about. We can reset, we can reboot, we can refix the system so that it actually is the people's government. You don't have Northam being able to go to the Supreme Court of the state of Virginia and get them to agree to something that many people see was not his authority to do. But when he put out that executive order for the emergency powers, some of us thought the courts in Virginia aren't going to rule against him because the system's fixed, and it's just the way it is. And people, you know, the common people are going, this isn't right, but they don't have any ability to do anything about it because they're on the other side of the threshold, and they don't have the ability to have the standing they need in order to be able to make their legal point in their legal position. So we're saying, what's the teeth? I don't think Crissy's wrong. I think that resettling the proper state of Virginia is absolutely required with the proper constitution, the proper layout of government. However, I think Ace is right in that he's saying we've got to have a lot of people that are all mobilizing together to see what we want accomplished, but we'd better have the right context. We'd better have the right content. We better have the right information that people can, as Milo said, be advocates for the remedy. And if we can pull all that together, and we can get people to start thinking that way, we will have teeth because we'll be backed by the people themselves in their proper position of political power growing out of the barrel of a gun. And that's where everything will come together in my mind.
Wow. Well, it is a subject that is unquestionably going to affect each and every one of us. And as I have said many times, it's not something that you want to sit back and take that we'll see what happens attitude, because in the majority of cases when you do that, the decision is made for you. You don't get to make the decision. Someone else makes it for you. And I believe that much of what we're seeing today really is no one to blame but ourselves. We have allowed this to continue. Now, some of that is through ignorance. And those of you, I've had people tell me, that's insulting. Ignorance doesn't mean that you're stupid. Ignorance means you just don't know. And the ignorance on many levels is by purpose. It's done by design. They purposely deceived and kept people ignorant and dumbed down. One of the things I think of was when slavery was legal, the slave masters could do just about anything they wanted to the slaves, but the one thing that would get them in trouble, in some cases even hanged, was to educate the slaves, to have them read and write so that they knew what their rights were. And in many cases, people really don't know what our rights are. They don't understand. And when someone like Crissy or Milo or David comes along and says, you're a citizen you're a national citizen instead of a state citizen, and because of that, they've usurped a lot of your authority, and you are under a different set of rules because of that. It kind of boggles, the mind sometimes. You have to think about, I thought I was just a United States citizen until all of this came up. I mean, that's how I refer to myself. I'm a United States citizen. What's your problem? And then they explained to me what the problem is. Because you are a United States citizen, you're under a different set of rules. And all of this stuff that you see happening that doesn't make any sense to you is all legal because you're under their set of rules. You're not under the set of rules that you think or that you have the perception that you are until you break one of those rules or until they feel that you're a threat to those rules. And then a rude awakening occurs, and the rude awakening is, what happened to the Bundys, what happened to the Hammonds. You get put away in solitary confinement for nothing, literally. If you don't know what the story is, you need to go find out, because this is how dangerous this government is. And again, if you think that this government is acting in our best interest, then you're part of the problem. I'm not telling you that it is the government, quote, itself. It is people within the government. And because of what has happened in the past, the only way to fix that is to fix the actual system, because you can keep changing the people. If the system's messed up, I think about computers. I used to work on computers. You can take the viruses out, but until you wipe the system completely clean, you have a problem after problem because it leaves residue behind. So until we clean the system up, until we restore what was stolen from us, I think we're just going to continue to suffer. We may win a battle here and a battle there, but I think on a permanent solution, in order to be able to really make it a permanent thing, we have to restore what was stolen from us. Really, that's what it boils down to. You guys, thank you so much for taking time to call in. I greatly appreciate it. I am just about out of time. Milo, David, Crissy, thank you so very much. Melanie, Ace, thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to call in. I'm open to having this conversation. This is an ongoing and fluid thing that is going on in Virginia. You really need to pay attention to what's going on in Virginia, because I believe it is a litmus test. They're testing us to see if we're going to put up with their nonsense or not. And Milo and David and Crissy say, well, it's not so much a test as it is they're just exercising their muscle. They have a right to do what they're doing because we're not state citizens. We are nationalized citizens. And because of that, we gave up. We didn't give up anything. It was stolen from us. So we'll be back in a week. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Take the blue pill. Take the red pill. Take the blue pill.
Bye for now.
Take the red pill. Take the blue pill. 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 You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, 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 take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. You stay stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Now, from sunny South Florida, it's the Red Pill Reality Show with your host, Riscala. Every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to midnight on the L&M Network.